Good evening or afternoon, actually, going into the evening. It's 3:45. I'm back in here. We have a White House press briefing going on, and as well as President Trump is going to sign the EO. We've also got, I believe, if we get to it, there's news on the protest and other top stories. And I also got a bunch of other interviews he's done in the last 24 hours, if we get to it. But I'm definitely here to show y'all live. Let's go ahead and just jump into it and take a live look as to what is going on right now. Press Secretary is speaking.
This will mark a truly unprecedented second state visit for President Trump, and he is honored and looking forward to meeting with His Majesty the King at Windsor Castle. There has been a wave of positive economic news over the past week, which I would like to highlight today. Joe Biden's inflation crisis has been defeated. Prices paid to American businesses for goods and services were flat in June, which is lower than all 50 forecasters in the Bloomberg survey predicted. And core inflation, which is the best measure of inflation, came in lower than expected again in the month of June. Since President Trump took office, core inflation has tracked at just 2.1% overall and has come in below or at economists' expectations every single month. Wages are growing at a strong pace and prices are falling for everyday Americans. We also saw prices for new and used vehicles and airfares drop last month. In addition, prices for gas, fuel oil, energy commodities, hotels, airfare, public transportation, and fresh vegetables are all down over last year. As we said all along, trust in President Trump. The American dream is back, and everyday families are already reaping the benefits of this incredible economic turnaround in just 6 months. President Trump has ended the era of economic surrender and implemented powerful tariffs to stand up for our workers and businesses and rebalance America's trading agreements. Despite all of the doom casting from the so-called experts claiming that these tariffs would be the end of the world as we know it, the opposite has occurred. Tariffs are not inflationary, as President Trump has said all along. In reality, tariffs are a source of massive revenue. We're seeing trillions of dollars in private investment pour into our country right now because the companies around this world want to make their products right here with American labor and not have to pay any tariffs at all. Customs and tariff revenue has already totaled more than $113 billion since President Trump entered office, helping to lead a budget surplus in June for the first time in nearly a decade. We are truly entering a golden age as a result of these pro-growth and America First trade policies. On another matter, yesterday in the East Room, the president was proud to sign the Halt All Lethal Trafficking of Fentanyl Act into law, surrounded by angel families to help finally end the devastating fentanyl crisis that has ravaged millions of Americans. Under the Halt Fentanyl Act, anyone who possesses, imports, distributes, or manufactures any illicit fentanyl-related substances will be subject to criminal prosecution in the same manner as any other Schedule I controlled substance. This legislation will close the loopholes that criminals use to skirt around the law and make it easier for law enforcement to prosecute vicious traffickers who peddle poison in our communities. President Trump has always made tackling the drug crisis a top priority, and this important bipartisan legislation further follows through on that commitment. The complete and total success at our southern border that many in the media in this room continue to ignore is another example of the president keeping his word to families who have lost loved ones due to fentanyl, and it's another win for the American people. Customs and Border Protection just released the final operationalized stats for the month of June, and I must highlight some of these incredible numbers. There were only 6,072 Southwest apprehensions in June, 15% lower than the previous record that this president set in the month of March. To put that in perspective, the Biden administration routinely saw the same number of encounters in a single day, And on many days, that number was more than 10,000 apprehensions at the southwest border. There were also 0 illegal aliens released along the southwest border for the second consecutive month in a row. President Trump promised to end the illegal alien invasion, and he has delivered on that promise to the American people in record time. With the border sealed, deportations are ramping up. This past weekend, our brave ICE agents were arresting violent criminal illegal aliens all across the country. ICE Atlanta arrested an illegal alien from Mexico, convicted of attempted rape of a child in North Carolina. ICE Baltimore arrested an illegal alien from Guatemala who was previously convicted for sexual abuse of a minor in Maryland. ICE Houston arrested a criminal illegal alien from Mexico whose previous conviction includes aggravated sexual assault of a child in Texas. ICE Salt Lake City arrested a 32-year-old illegal criminal alien from Mexico who was previously convicted for child abuse and injury. ICE Baltimore arrested a criminal illegal alien from El Salvador convicted in Maryland for possession of child pornography. And ICE San Antonio arrested a criminal illegal alien from Mexico convicted of aggravated sexual assault in Texas. The men and women of ICE are heroes. They are putting their lives on the line every day to get the worst of the worst, these types of criminals, out of our communities and out of our country. And the president continues to strongly have the backs of all ICE agents who are doing their jobs to keep all of us, including everyone in this room, safe. The facility, sorry, 1 second. In other news, following President Trump's bold executive actions protecting American children from irreversible chemical and surgical mutilation, the largest provider of these barbaric practices will now be closing its doors. The facility in Los Angeles, California, is just the latest facility downsizing or eliminating their irreversible and harmful services that feed into the lie that you can somehow change a child's sex. The Biden administration peddled dangerous policies that defied medical science in favor of radical transgender ideology. But President Trump has put an end to that to ensure America's children's innocence is protected and our children can lead healthy and productive lives. Finally, last night, Senate Republicans passed President Trump's $9 billion rescissions package. This will help restore fiscal sanity in our country by rescinding billions in wasteful foreign aid and finally ending taxpayer funding for PBS and NPR, 2 media organizations that have ridiculously used federal dollars to push a partisan left-wing agenda for many years. The House should pass this rescissions package immediately and send it to the president's desk for signature. On another note, I know that many in the media have been speculating about bruising on the president's hand and also swelling in the president's legs. So in the effort of transparency, the president wanted me to share a note from his physician with all of you today. In recent weeks, President Trump noted mild swelling in his lower legs. In keeping with routine medical care and out of an abundance of caution, this concern was thoroughly evaluated by the White House medical unit. The president underwent a comprehensive examination, including diagnostic vascular studies. Bilateral lower extremity venous Doppler ultrasounds were performed and revealed chronic venous insufficiency, a benign and common condition, particularly in individuals over the age of 70. Importantly, there was no evidence of deep vein thrombosis or arterial disease. Laboratory testing included a complete blood count, comprehensive metabolic panel, coagulation profile, D-dimer, B-type natriuretic peptide, and cardiac biomarkers. All results were within normal limits. An echocardiogram was also performed and confirmed normal cardiac structure and function. No signs of heart failure, renal impairment, or systemic illness were identified. Additionally, recent photos of the president have shown minor bruising on the back of his hand. This is consistent with minor soft tissue irritation from frequent handshaking and the use of aspirin, which is taken as part of a standard cardiovascular prevention regimen. This is a well-known and benign side effect of aspirin therapy. And the president remains in excellent health, which I think all of you witness on a daily basis here. So the president wanted me to share that note with all of you. I'm happy to take further questions on it. We will provide the memorandum from the president's physician to all of you, as we always do. And we'll get to questions. Here in our new media seat, we have Frank Corva, who's the White House correspondent for Bitcoin Magazine, which comes at a timely week with crypto legislation moving across Capitol Hill. So why don't you kick us off, Frank, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it, Ms. Leavitt.
Sure.
I was curious to hear if the president was in favor of removing any and all language around central bank digital currencies from the Genius Act, maybe as a means to get it across the line and get it on his desk. And then my second question was about something the president spoke about in this room. He talked about a $600 de minimis tax exemption for Bitcoin and other crypto spending. So I was just wondering if you could comment on those.
Sure. Well, the president did signal his support for a de minimis exemption for crypto, and the administration continues to be in support of that. We are definitely receptive to it to make crypto payments easier and more efficient for those who seek to use crypto as simple as buying a cup of coffee. Of course, right now that cannot happen, but with the de minimis exemption, perhaps it could in the future, and we will continue to explore legislative solutions to accomplish that. As for the central bank digital currency and the Genius Act, which you noted has passed through Congress and will be sent to the president's desk. I believe the House is voting on it. If they haven't, they should be passing it. We know we have the votes, and we expect it to get to the president's desk, and we are planning a signing ceremony tomorrow afternoon. All of you will get more details on that. This piece of legislation is going to make America the crypto capital of the world, and that's what the president promised. As for a central bank digital currency, the president opposes that. He made that promise to the American people on the campaign, and while it's not in this specific piece of legislation, he did sign a January executive order banning a central bank digital currency. The administration supports Congress's efforts to codify that executive order into law, and I believe there will be future pieces of legislation in regards to crypto that will be moving through Capitol Hill. The president looks forward to signing them, and he looks forward to the signing ceremony this afternoon. So thank you for being with us today. Sure. Jackie.
Thank you, Caroline. There's been a lot of discussion about the Epstein files and the president's comments yesterday calling it a hoax. Can you clarify which part of the Epstein hoax is the hoax part?
The president is referring to the fact that Democrats have now seized on this as if they ever wanted transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein, which is an asinine suggestion for any Democrat to make. The Democrats had control of this building, the White House, for 4 years, and they didn't do a dang thing when it came to transparency in regards to Jeffrey Epstein and his heinous crimes. It was this president who directed the Department of Justice and the Attorney General to do an exhaustive review of all files related to Jeffrey Epstein, which they did. The Attorney General and the FBI, led by Pam Bondi, Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, these are great patriots, some of the most trusted voices in the Republican Party movement. It's part of the reason the president appointed them to these high law enforcement positions. And they spent many months going through all of the files related to Jeffrey Epstein, and they concluded what they found in that memo, which they drafted and they released. And so the president has been transparent. He has followed through on his promises to the American people, but he doesn't like to see Democrats in the mainstream media covering this like it's the biggest story that the American people care about. The president has been working so hard this week. On Tuesday, he went to Pennsylvania, where he secured $90 billion in investments for the Commonwealth, for the people of that state. After that, he came back to the Oval Office at 8 p.m. He went in there to whip votes to get the Genius Act signed into law. And because of his efforts, that bill is now going to be signed and passed. The following day, yesterday, he meets with a foreign leader, the King of Bahrain, to secure more investments into this country. And then yesterday afternoon, the president is in the East Room of the White House mourning with parents who have lost their children because of fentanyl, signing a bipartisan piece of legislation. And not a single cable network in this country took that event live and covered that event like they should. Those are the issues the president cares about. What could be more important to the American people than helping families who have lost their children? Those are the issues this president is going to remain focused on.
I understand he wants to move on from this story, but you do have some prominent figures, including the Senate Majority Leader, the House Speaker, voicing support for the files to come out. Representative Massey collecting signatures that would force a discharge petition for a vote on the floor for this. It doesn't seem to be going away. What is stopping the administration from just redacting any sensitive information, grand jury information, and putting out what is appropriate so that the American people can decide and then let this story die?
Well, in terms of redactions or grand jury seals, those are questions for the Department of Justice. Those are also questions for the judges who have that information under a seal. And that would have to be requested and a judge would have to approve it. That's out of the president's control. He has said in agreement with some of the leaders on Capitol Hill that if the Attorney General and the Department of Justice come across any other credible evidence, they should provide that to the American people. The president has said that, and he agrees with them on
Why
that.
did he fire Maureen Comey?
The Department of Justice did, and I would defer you to them. Dasha.
Has the White House been directly in touch with some of the MAGA influencers that are still not satisfied with this administration's handling? And has the message to them been similar to what the president has said, which is sort of either let this go or we don't need your support?
Well, look, the president and this team are always in contact with the president's supporters with voices of many kinds on both sides of the aisle. I think that's part of the reason this president is a great president, because he's willing to listen and hear other people's perspectives. But ultimately, he has led this country not just over the past 6 months to historic success, but also through his first 4 years as president. And as the leader and the creator of the MAGA movement, he has led through these perilous times for our country based on instinct and in the best interest of the country. And as I always say, the American people should trust in President Trump.
And what on
John,
the Fed chair?
go ahead, John.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. The president on Monday announced that if there's not compliance with Russia within 50 days, there would be increased tariffs. Can you explain how that works? First of all, what happens if Russia doesn't end its war with Ukraine in 50 days?
Well, in 50 days, as the president clearly laid out, if there is not a ceasefire agreement or a peace deal within that time frame, if Russia refuses to legitimately agree to a ceasefire, then they will face very steep tariffs and they will also face secondary sanctions. So countries that are purchasing oil from Russia will be sanctioned as well, and of course that will do deep damage to Russia's economy. And I would just add that the president wants this war to end with a diplomatic solution. He's been pushing for it. This administration has spent many hours and a lot of time trying to solve this war very far away, but the president wants to stop the killing and he wants to save lives.
As far
Reagan,
as the first part
go
of
ahead.
what you were saying, Caroline. the
Reagan,
first
go
part,
ahead.
I have two questions for
It's
you.
just about, if I may, just about the tariffs, the first part. I get the secondary tariffs, but there was only $3 billion worth of trade between the U.S. and Russia in 2024. It's expected to be far less this particular year. On April the 2nd, both you and the Treasury Secretary said it's not necessary to apply any tariffs on Russia. You said that because of the lack of trade, it precludes, that was the word you used, any need for tariffs. Why now, and why do you think that that would make them cave and come to some sort of peace agreement as it relates to Ukraine?
$3 billion is still a lot of money, John, and it's not just tariffs, it's the secondary sanctions as well that will be implemented in 50 days. Reagan.
Thanks, Caroline. I have two questions for
Sure.
you. First on Congress. Congresswoman Salazar introduced legislation that would give some illegal immigrants in the country a path to citizenship. 10 Republicans signed on to what she's calling the Dignity Act. I'm curious what the White House's position is on the legislation and if the president would veto this bill if it made it to its desk.
From my understanding, the White House nor the president has actually read through this legislation. We've been focused on, of course, the One Big Beautiful Bill, which passed, which is another historic accomplishment of this president in record time. The Genius Act this week, the rescissions package, that's been the focus of the White House. But the president has made it very clear he will not support amnesty for illegal aliens in any way.
And I want to give you a chance to respond to the CEO of NPR. She's claiming that the cuts to their network will, quote, be a real risk to public safety of the country. Congressman Murkowski has argued that public broadcasting stations save lives. Could you respond to these concerns?
The NPR CEO said cutting NPR will be a risk to public safety. I am not sure how NPR helps the public safety of our country, but I do know that NPR, unfortunately, has become really just a propaganda voice for the left. Just a few examples for you. In 2020, NPR refused to cover The Hunter Biden laptop scandal in the run-up to the election, they said their assertions don't amount to much, writing they did not want to waste the listeners' and readers' time on stories that are just pure distractions. That does not sound like an unbiased opinion. That sounds like a partisan opinion to me. And this is a taxpayer-funded organization. In 2018, that same CEO that you're talking about called the president in the Oval Office, who nearly 80 million Americans elected, she called him racist, shared a photo of herself wearing a Biden for President campaign hat, serves on the board of a Soros-funded activist group. In 2020, PBS's White House correspondent at the time characterized President Trump's speech then at Mount Rushmore as a love letter to white resentment, promoting the myth of America. In 2017, PBS devoted an entire panel talking about what it means to be woke and white privilege. In 2023, PBS's Washington Week Roundtable covered up Joe Biden's clear mental divide. That's actually quite the clip. I would encourage all of you to look at it. These are not honest news organizations. These are partisan, left-wing outlets that are funded by the taxpayers. And this administration does not believe it's a good use of the taxpayers' time and money. Ed Lawrence.
Yeah, thanks, Caroline. I want to ask you about the Federal Reserve. So does the president believe that the slightly restrictive monetary policy stance right now, could that cause an economic slowdown? And if he does believe that, when?
What pause are you referring to?
No, could the stance of the monetary policy is slightly restrictive? Does the president believe that that stance, the slightly restrictive stance, could cause an economic slowdown in itself?
I haven't heard the president discuss that specifically, but what I do know in regards to the Federal Reserve is the president's been very transparent about his displeasure with both the policies and the management of the Fed, and he spoke about that to all of you pretty extensively in the Oval Office yesterday.
And last month, one more if I could. Last month, the Canadian Prime Minister said the president had agreed to a July 21st deadline to sort of work towards a trade agreement. That's 4 days from now. Could there be a trade agreement with Canada in 4 days?
Well, look, we'll see. The trade team continues to be very active in our conversations and discussions with Canada. The president himself has said, unfortunately, our neighbors to the north have been pretty difficult to deal with when it comes to matters on trade. But in trade, generally speaking, as you know, 25 countries have received letters thus far from the president directly with his big, beautiful signature on them, from Japan to Korea, South Africa, Kazakhstan, Malaysia, just a few countries, and Canada also received a letter for 35%. With that said, if countries want to have legitimate further discussions, the Trump administration and the president's trade team are willing to have further talks. But these letters these countries have been receiving are the deals. And as the president has said, those deals will be made. They are tailor-made to each and every country based on the United States' concerns and what's in the best interest of the American worker and the American people.
Caroline,
Charlie, go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline.
No, I called on Charlie, but Deanna, you can go ahead too. Go ahead.
The president said that he floated the idea of a special prosecutor in the Epstein case. Can you confirm that? And has he asked the Attorney General to do this, to appoint a special prosecutor to look it over?
Well, the idea was floated from someone in the media to the president. The president would not recommend a special prosecutor in the Epstein case. That's how he feels. And as for his discussions with the Attorney General, I'm not sure. Deanna.
Caroline. Thank you so much. Do you know what the president's reaction was to Mike Johnson saying that he wants additional files released, the Epstein files? Was there a conversation with Mike Johnson about that following his comments?
I won't discuss the president's private conversations with the Speaker of the House, but as I answered to Jackie's question earlier, the president has said if the Attorney General and the Department of Justice and the FBI have any more credible evidence in regards to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes, they should put that forward. He has called on them to do that.
Sure.
Thank you, Caroline.
With a few days.
I'll go to all of you, starting with the lady in the blue. Go ahead.
With a few days to the August 9th deadline, how are the negotiations with Europe going? There's some sticking points. What are they? Can we expect a delay, or should we expect a deal soon?
Well, I believe the deadline is August 1st. As for the European Union, they continue to be very eager in negotiating with our country for obvious reasons on ways to lower their tariff and their non-tariff barriers that we have long said harm our workers and our companies. So the president's trade team continue to be in talks with the European Union.
Would he accept, or would he put forth a postponement of the August 1st?
He's already said he will not.
Caroline,
Owen, go ahead.
Caroline, good afternoon, Caroline. In Gaza today, Holy Family Catholic Church was struck by an Israeli shell.
Yes.
3 people were killed, 10 wounded. What is the president's reaction to that church coming under fire?
It was not a positive reaction. He called Prime Minister Netanyahu this morning to address the strikes on that church in Gaza. And I understand the Prime Minister agreed to put out a statement. It was a mistake by the Israelis to hit that Catholic church. That's what the Prime Minister relayed to the President. And you should look at the Prime Minister's statement that will be coming. Steve, go ahead.
Back to your letter that you read at the beginning.
Sure.
The president, you said mild swelling in his legs.
Yes,
Is
sir.
it causing him any discomfort? How are you treating it?
Nope, no discomfort from the president at all. And you probably all see that on a day-to-day basis. He's working around the clock. As for the treatments, I can defer to the president's physician, and we'll get you this letter. I think it will answer all your questions.
There are reports that a Chinese-born banker who works in Atlanta for Wells Fargo is being prevented from leaving China. Has the president, is he going to bring this up with President Xi? Are you aware of the case?
I'm not aware of the case, but I'm sure our National Security Council team is. Steve will get you some answers on that.
Thank you.
Kristen.
Thank you, Caroline. 2 questions. So the first is that President Trump said that the Attorney General only gave him a brief overview of what was in these Epstein files. Does he have knowledge or an understanding of what is in the files related to Epstein that have not been released?
Not to my knowledge, and that's a question for the Attorney General, as I said, and the President has told the Attorney General if they have any more credible evidence, they should release it.
Is that evidence, would she have to run that by the President before she released it?
I don't think so. He said if she has any more credible evidence, she should release it.
Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Go ahead, yes.
Right. Thank you, Caroline. 2 questions. One, today.
You can go ahead, Andrew. Don't worry.
Today, tens of thousands of folks are rallying nationwide to honor the legacy of Congressman John Lewis. Meanwhile, Republicans in Texas reportedly are working to redraw congressional maps at President Trump's urging. How is President Trump reconciling his call to action for Texas Republicans with the legacy of Representative John Lewis?
I'm not quite sure how the two things are related. I think the president would agree that John Lewis served our country for many, many years. It has nothing to do with the redistricting efforts that are currently underway by Texas Republicans to add seats to their legislature. They have the right to do that. The president spoke to the congressmen and women who serve the great state of Texas about it, but it's up to them and it's up to their legislature to get that approved.
And Caroline, this is the second question. And does the president support the Justice Department's request for just 1 day in jail for the officer convicted in Breonna Taylor's killing? And what message does he believe that sends her family and the other families seeking justice in cases of police violence?
I haven't talked to the president about that case. Go ahead.
Just the president, when the president met the interim president of Syria a couple of months ago, he described him as a young, tough, attractive guy. After the latest clashes in Syria over the last few days, does President Trump still support Syria's interim president?
The president still supports Syria's pathway to a peaceful and prosperous country. And you received an update directly from the Secretary of State on the ongoing situation between Syria and Israel. I spoke to him myself this morning to get an update. And as soon as the United States became involved in this conflict, we were able to de-escalate, deconflict. That seems to be continuing. Syria agreed to draw back their troops that were in the area where that clash was ongoing. And we continue to be very actively monitoring the situation. The president wants to see Syria become a prosperous and stable country. And by the lifting of the sanctions on Syria, he's giving them a real chance to do that. And he wants to see that through. Andrew, go ahead.
So on Tuesday, the president told a very detailed story about his uncle, noted scientist John Trump, and Theodore Kaczynski, the late Unabomber. He said that Dr. Trump taught Ted Kaczynski. Ted Kaczynski was not identified as the Unabomber until 1996, 11 years after John Trump passed away. It would have been impossible for John Trump to have ever discussed the Unabomber with the president. So What was he talking about? And I have one follow-up.
Andrew, with so many issues going on in the world, I'm a little bit surprised you would ask such a question, although I'm not sometimes coming from you, I will say, but I'm willing to give you an answer. Nevertheless, the president's uncle did, in fact, teach at MIT. He was a very intelligent professor. The president's very proud of his family. In fact, the president has a letter from his uncle on the MIT letterhead that sits in the Oval Office dining room. Maybe we'll let you see it sometime.
Elizabeth. Caroline, one more.
Elizabeth,
will the president consider pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell if the Epstein case is a hoax?
Okay, I'll start off with the president said last week he would not be getting involved in the New York City mayoral case. If that mayoral race, if that's still the case, given his history drawing a large crowd in New York City, what's his reason for staying out of it in that way?
Well, look, I think the president reserves the right to get involved in races or not get involved in races, and he's made the decision not to weigh in on the New York mayoral race, as you rightly pointed out, although he has gone as far to say he absolutely does not want to see Zemdami elected, who is a known communist who supports the abolishment of private property, the defunding of police. He has made very well-known anti-Semitic statements. It would be a disaster for New York and for this country. And I think it's quite telling that this individual, a known communist, has been spending time in Washington this week meeting with leaders on Capitol Hill. This is truly where the Democrat Party is headed. Clearly, they learned nothing from November 5th in the president's overwhelming victory. Mary, go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. I want to backtrack to the hospitals that have stopped providing transgender surgeries and hormones for kids. On this front, does that have anything to do with the DOJ's subpoenas last week? Should we expect any more hospitals to be shutting down their programs? And I wanted to also ask what you make of all these media reports, especially the AP, which I noticed, which portrays these children as losing something that's saving their lives.
Yes, I think the president spoke a lot about this issue, which is a political issue, but also really a cultural issue that impacts children and families. He talked about it a lot on the campaign, and I think he was quite surprised by the uptick we were seeing in the embracement by the Democrat Party when it comes to the chemical castration and mutilation of young, innocent bodies. And so the president made it a very early priority to sign very strong executive orders to cut off the funding for any hospital or any medical facility in this country that provides such barbaric procedures. And as a result of that strong policy and the president's strong common sense position on this issue, we've had such an overwhelming response, which is great for children in Arizona. Phoenix Children's Hospital has stopped providing puberty blockers and hormone therapy to minors. In California, Stanford Medicine ended sex change surgeries for minors. Children's Hospital Los Angeles is closing its Center for Trans Youth Health and Development surgical program. In Illinois, Lurie Children's Hospital Chicago stopped sex change surgeries. Again, let's think about what we're talking about here. Sex change surgeries for minors. These are barbaric practices that no child, innocent child, should have to endure. And the president wants to protect the innocence of children. And I know the vast majority of Americans support him in that effort. This is a wildly popular and common sense endeavor this administration has taken. And we've seen many of these medical institutions have followed through with the president's executive orders, but we'll continue to take further action on this important issue. Garrett.
I too, if you'll indulge me.
Sure.
On the rescissions package, I wonder what the White House makes of this theory that it increases the odds of a shutdown. The theory is basically, why would any Democrat vote for a bipartisan spending deal with Republicans if Republicans can turn around and claw the money back the next day?
Look, $9 billion worth of crap that it was in our federal funding that is now being rescinded. This is a good thing for the American people and the American taxpayer. And I think our Office of Management and Budget Director was saying this process should be more bipartisan. Democrats, there was a time in this country where Democrats too cared about getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse in our federal spending. I think every American agrees the government spends way too much money on things that don't matter. Some of those things include PBS and NPR, or for instance, the Democracy Fund, which was funded to the tune of $83 million through the Department of State. But they were giving hundreds of thousands of dollars for gender equality and empowerment hubs in Yemen, $3.9 million for strengthening information integrity, equality, and democracy for LGBTQI population of the Western Balkans. These are not good uses of the taxpayer funds, and Republicans are proud to lead that effort, and we wish more Democrats would join us in that.
I wanted to follow up on the Maureen Comey question just to clarify. Did the White House have any knowledge, or did the president sign off on her firing?
This was a decision that was made by the Department of Justice.
There was an agreement that was made between Immigration and Customs Enforcement and the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services regarding access to Medicaid information for 92 million Medicaid recipients around the country. That includes health information. So how does that not violate HIPAA violations and privacy concerns, for example, of American citizens?
I'm going to have to defer you to Immigration and Customs Enforcement on that. I'm unfamiliar with that agreement that they made.
Thanks, Caroline. 2 questions. Russ Vought said today he's going to be looking into cost overruns in the Fed's renovation projects. Is there a deadline for him to come back with findings to the president?
I don't believe there's a deadline the president has set for Russ Vought, but I think, again, this is a good use of taxpayers' time to look into this project that is millions and millions of dollars over budget. It's for a big, beautiful mansion for the federal chairman, reserve chairman, and I understand that it costs much more than it did the beautiful palace that many of you joined us at when we went overseas. So it's completely unnecessary, it's overpriced, and I think it's a good thing the administration, led by the president, is looking into it.
If there were to find wrongdoing or fraud, would the president reconsidering firing Jerome Powell?
Look, it's a hypothetical question. We'll see where it goes. The president spoke about how he feels on this matter yesterday.
Sure. Thank you so much, Caroline. So we saw Ambassador Huckabee arrive to Prime Minister Netanyahu's trial to show his support. Does the president plan to impose any kind of sanctions against the Israel judicial system?
I don't have any update for you on that or any announcement on that front. I don't believe so.
Does the president believe that justice has been served in the Epstein case?
Look, the president believes that he directed the Department of Justice to do an exhaustive and thorough review, and they did that. And they all agreed, the FBI director, the deputy FBI director, the attorney general, on the memo that they drafted and they released.
Thank you, Caroline. Just a follow-up on Reagan's question. Representative Salazar's bill, it grants illegal aliens with legal status for 7-year increments. It also gives permanent path to residency for so-called dreamers. And, President Trump and Labor Secretary Chavez, who previously co-sponsored a version of this bill when she was in the House, they've spoken about a work deal similar to the bill, I believe. What's the difference between a work deal and amnesty?
Look, as I told Reagan, the president, the White House have not reviewed this specific piece of legislation. It's just not where our focus has been. But the president, for one, has been very clear. He does not support amnesty.
Caroline,
We'll go to, look at some friends in the back. Brian, go ahead. You didn't show up early enough to get some good real estate up here.
I love it. Any update on the auto pen? I know that there was the DOJ and some others were looking into the thousands of documents that were signed off just before Joe Biden left office. Any update on the auto pen?
Yes. I'm not laughing at you. I'm just laughing at how far away you are. And you're going to need to get some microphones back there. And the auto pen investigation, yes. The White House counsel's office has launched their own investigation into former President Biden's usage of the auto pen. We have requested some documents from the National Archives. And again, as I've said many times from this podium, and the president has said as well, it's incredibly important that we get to the bottom of who really was at the tip of the spear in the decision-making process here in the White House, because former President Biden himself admitted to the New York Times, I understand he never gave interviews when he was here, but now all of a sudden he wants to give one. And he said that he did not actually review every single pardon that he signed on his way out the door. That's incredibly concerning, and I can tell you it's something this president would never tolerate. This is a president who is signing things all the time. Any document that has legal implications, this president's signature is on it because he's the one making the decisions. It does not appear that was the truth in the previous White House, and I know the American people want to receive answers on who was running the show, because the decisions that were made in this place really destroyed our country, and we deserve to get to the bottom of it. Mark, in the back.
Thanks. Some Christian groups are complaining that they are not able to get visas as quickly to travel to Israel. And it's been elevated to Ambassador Huckabee's station. Is the White House aware of that? Does it have any reaction to that? And is that part of the president's disappointment with Netanyahu's government.
Look, I'm not aware of that, Mark, but I'm sure, again, our National Security Council is, and also the State Department, as you know, travel visas roll through Secretary Rubio's shop over there, whom we work very closely with. So we will check in on the matter. But I know overall, this president and the administration do want to streamline the visa process to make it easier for both Americans who want to travel abroad and people abroad who want to come to our country the legal way. Sure. Go ahead. I was going to the gentleman above you, but go ahead, Libby, and then you can go.
Sorry. Okay. Two questions for you. The first is, during the Hill Nation Summit, Secretary Noem suggested there could be some changes to TSA's liquid limits. Mm-hmm. Is the president aware of that? Is that an idea that he's backing? And what would that timeline and the changes look like?
Sure. I would defer you to the Department of Homeland Security, but I did see Secretary Noem's comments, and I think it's great that on day one, she asked TSA, what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? How can we make air travel more efficient while maintaining utmost security for American passengers and travelers? And I know they announced no more shoes, or you don't need to take off your shoes anymore at the airport, which I think is welcome news to all of us who travel a lot. But further guidance or decisions, of course, that's in the Secretary of Homeland Security's overview, and I would defer to her.
And the other question for you is on Bondi and Burgum's trip today to Alcatraz. I'm curious what the funding is going to look like for that, and who the president does want to see incarcerated there, if it were to become.
Sure. Well, this was an idea of the president. He spoke about it in May, and he directed his administration to review a reopening plan for Alcatraz if it is possible, which is why the Attorney General and the Secretary of Interior have traveled there today. They are touring the site, and if the Alcatraz prison is reopened, it would be under the purview of the Bureau of Prisons. And the Secretary of Interior also would play a big role in this as well. So they're there to review the site today, and I'm sure you'll hear more from them on it later. And just to follow up, Libby, on who the president wants to see housed in Alcatraz, the worst of the worst criminals in this country, both American criminals who convict heinous crimes, but also illegal alien criminals before deportation as well. Sure. Go ahead.
The State Department yesterday urged the Chinese Communist Party to cease its campaign to eradicate Falun Gong, a peaceful spiritual practice. With the anniversary of this brutal persecution approaching, does the White House have a message for the CCP on this?
Well, I will get you one, and we will get back to you. Go ahead. We'll take. Go ahead, and then go ahead. I've never called on you. Why don't you go ahead? In the red tie. Dr. Harper behind.
Thank you.
Yes. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Me. Thanks.
Yes.
Thank you, Caroline.
Yes, you. What's your name?
My name is Matias. Thank you.
What's your outlet?
I'm for Record TV, Brazil.
Great.
Brazil's President Lula recently said that President Trump was elected to govern the United States and not to act as the emperor of the world. And he also emphasized that Brazil is open to negotiation. I'd like to hear what you have to say about it, what the administration has to say about it, and specifically what areas are currently open to negotiation in the light of the 50% tariffs that were announced.
Sure. The president is certainly not trying to be the emperor of the world. He is a strong president for the United States of America, and he's also the leader of the free world. And we've seen a great shift across the entire globe because of the strong leadership of this president. In regards to Brazil, the president sent a letter to Brazil announcing their new tariff percentage. He also directed our USTR ambassador, Jamison Greer, to launch an investigation of Brazil under Section 301 of the Trade Act of 1974, designed to address unfair foreign practices that are affecting U.S. commerce. For years, we know Brazil's digital regulations and weak IP protections have undermined U.S. tech and innovative companies, and their tolerance of illegal deforestation and other environmental practices puts American producers, manufacturers, farmers, and ranchers who follow better environmental standards at a competitive disadvantage. So this president always acts in the best interest of the American people and the United States of America, and he will continue to do so. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you later. I appreciate the enthusiasm today.
Thank you, Caroline.
All right, as you see there, just listening into the White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt taking several questions there at this briefing. It started a bit late there, but we got into a lot of topics, including Jeffrey Epstein, the Middle East, as well as addressing AG Bondi's visit today to Alcatraz. So we wanted to bring that to you in full here on Live Now from Fox without any commercial breaks, but just hearing there from the Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt. And that's not the only briefing that we're expecting to hear from today. I want to show you this vantage point that we have there of the State Department. That briefing is also set to get off there in just a little while. We should be hearing from spokesperson Tammy Bruce when she steps up to the podium. We will certainly bring you out to it here on Live Now from Fox. All right, we are going to take this time to slide away for our first 2-minute commercial break of the hour. Stay right here with us. This attorney for Washington.
Law that right now, but as the
Jeanine Pirro, she is making some of those comments.
And Seth Jason is a rogue former full-time federal government employee at Voice of America. And he actually used phones located in the control rooms where broadcasters were reporting. And Voice of America, by the way, which is an organization that reaches millions around the world and apparently communicates in 49 different languages. Now, through the leadership of President Trump, this sprawling federal bureaucracy is being held accountable, including through the work of Kerry Lake, who is senior advisor to the U.S. Agency for Global Media, which oversees Voice of America. Now, my office is going to continue to hold government employees to the highest standards, and make no mistake, this defendant here is also disappointingly a reserve officer with the Anne Arundel County Police Department. Now, let me just talk about the effects of this kind of thing. No one should have to live their life looking over their shoulder every day and wondering if those threats are about to be fulfilled and about to come true. And the threat to murder, have your family murdered as well as yourself, is debilitating for a lot of people. And they create a climate of fear, as well as disrupting one's ability to actually perform their duties. So my message today should be loud and clear. This behavior is a crime. You threaten a public official, and you'll face the full force of the law crushing down on you. There will be no mercy and no excuses. And I would like to thank the Office of the State Department's Inspector General, but also the Capitol Police, who've been working on this case for several years. And we have with us Chief Mike Sullivan. Chief?
Thank you, Judge. This has got to stop. I've been here for 3 weeks and met with members of Congress consistently and hear a consistent message. This has changed since Minnesota. We are going to work very, very hard to hold you accountable if you make these threats. I want to commend the incredible work of the men and women of the Capitol Police. They came together as a team to put this investigation together, to bring it to the U.S. Attorney, to come to this day. And they are still working on this investigation as we speak. So once again, I want to thank the men and women. I want to thank the men and women of the Capitol Police who every single day go out and dedicate themselves to make sure that we protect the people that we're sworn to protect. Thank you. And I also want to thank the State Inspector General for their assistance on the case, and the Anne Arundel County Police who were there this morning on the scene, helping us on the scene serve the warrant.
All right. Any questions?
Is he still in custody? Does he have an initial
Yes, he's got a presentation within the hour. It is a 4-count indictment that has just been unsealed. He is retired from Voice of America just a couple of months ago, so I understand that he's now unemployed.
The 4 counts
You know what? That's the one thing that, do you have the file on this? Hang on. They involve obviously the threats as well as communication versus the telephones, as well as the intent to annoy and abuse and harass. But the original two charges are 18 U.S.C. 115A, influencing a federal official by threatening a family member. And basically, the statute reads that you threaten, hang on to that, that you threaten a family, you threaten an official with killing a member of their family in the hopes that you will prevent them from doing their official duty or in retaliation for something that they have already done. That's count one. And the second one is influencing a federal official by threat. That's the straight out threat, I'm going to kill you, as well as anonymous telecommunications harassment. And obviously the federal hook there is the telecommunications. And there is also the interstate communications with the threat to kidnap and injure. Serious stuff here. And to have to live your life with that kind of thing, we're locked and loaded, we're coming for you, is not a comfortable thing. Yes, sir.
Was there any investigation into whether this person may have also been responsible for the swatting incidents that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think that we have any reason to believe that based upon what we know right now. But as the chief just indicated, I mean, we executed a search warrant. When we get a return on that information, you know, we'll find out if there's more to comment on. Yes, sir. Yeah. A good question. There were no rifles or guns that were seized today, correct?
That's my understanding.
That's our understanding, and we're sticking with it because that's what we know. Maryland, what town in Maryland?
I believe it's Edgewater, Maryland.
Edgewater. I'm new to the area. You're here 3 weeks?
3 weeks.
8.
So he was charged in Edgewater, and he had to be brought.
No, he was arrested in Edgewater and brought here. He's going to be arraigned in a couple minutes. No, presented.
Is there a couple questions for you about the recent firings of DOJ personnel?
Yeah, I'm not getting into that stuff right now. I'm here to fight crime, and that's just what I'm going to do.
In his capacity as a reserve police officer in Anne Arundel County, what does that mean exactly? Would he have access to weapons as part of
that? I don't know. Do you know?
I would refer you to Anne Arundel County for that question.
Yeah.
Judge,
all right, guys.
Quick question for you, Judge. You got through the Judiciary Committee today. You did something that your predecessor was not able to do. Any idea why were you able to get through that the committee? And have you made?
I did something that who wasn't able to do?
Your predecessor, Ed Martin, wasn't able to.
Oh, my predecessor.
Yes.
You think I'm going to touch that? No. It's good to see you all. Thank you.
All right, as you see there, just listening into Jeanine Pirro as she was making remarks. This comes after a big day for her as her nomination was advanced. We do know that the Senate Judiciary Committee earlier today gave its approval for 2 Trump nominations, including Jeanine Pirro. This came after there were objections there from Democrats in the room who ultimately walked out of that meeting after the debate was cut short. So we do know that Pirro is a former county judge and Fox News host, and she was confirmed as a nominee for U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C. But as we aired out here earlier here on Live Now from Fox, the meeting made for somewhat of an unusual scene as Senator Cory Booker, the Democrat from New Jersey, appealed to Senator Chuck Grassley, the Republican from Iowa, on personal terms after Grassley and the committee chair cut off requests for continued debate and did not allow all the Democrats in the room to speak up. So we wanted to bring you that to you here on Live Now from Fox. In the meantime, though, still taking a look there as the stage is set for the State Department press briefing. We're expecting to hear from spokesperson Tammy Bruce. Once she walks up there to the podium, we'll certainly bring that to you here on Live Now from Fox. In the meantime, let's take this opportunity to slide away for a quick 2-minute commercial break. Much more of your top stories resume after this. Stay with us.
who are in public service should be make life better for everyday Americans, to improve the quality of life for the American people, to ensure, as Democrats are focused on, that when you work hard and play by the rules in the United States of America, you should be able to afford to live the good life. Good paying job, good housing, good health care, good education for your children, and a good retirement. That's the American dream. And far too many people are unable to achieve it, even though they're working hard and playing by the rules. Republicans haven't made it easier to achieve the American dream. They are making it harder for everyday Americans. And that's a shame. Questions?
Leader, good morning. Good afternoon.
Good to see you.
Do you expect any delay tactics tonight to try to stall this? You set a record with a speech just a couple of weeks ago.
Well, it's not clear what the challenges are right now in terms of why Republicans have been unable to bring these bills to the floor so we can actually debate them and lay out for the American people why their efforts to slash and burn funding is going to hurt public health, public safety, and the dissemination of public information to places like small towns and rural America. That's going to be the impact of the rescissions package. And so, as of the moment, we're just looking forward to an active and robust debate on the House floor so we can lay out for the American people why Republicans continue to take steps to hurt them as opposed to helping them.
So not anticipating a magic minute like you did a couple of weeks ago?
I do expect to participate in the debate, and I expect that I will speak longer than a minute.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. I want to get your reaction to comments that OMB Director Russ Vought made at a breakfast with reporters this morning when he said that he didn't think that the appropriations process should be bipartisan going forward. Do you agree with that? What are your comments on the appropriations process if this rescissions package passes? Do you think that that hurts the spirit of bipartisanship that you try to approach these negotiations with?
The Trump administration and House and Senate Republicans are trying to march America toward a painful government shutdown. That's the reality. We've known that to be the case. And now Russell Vought is saying the quiet part out loud, that the Trump administration has no interest in reaching a spending agreement in a bipartisan manner, which means, translation, they are determined to shut the government down and hurt the American people.
Just to be clear, are you considering a possible speech that would be long enough to mean the deadline for passing rescissions tomorrow night could pass?
I'm surprised how much attention the Magic Minute is generating at this particular point in time.
Well, the fate of all this money could come to that.
I think Democrats are going to continue to fight hard and do everything we can to make sure that we are pushing back aggressively against this rescissions package, which is going to hurt the American people.
Johnson's reportedly considering putting a non-binding resolution for calling for the release of all the files related to Jeffrey Epstein. Would that be satisfactory at this moment, or do you think Democrats at this point need to see something like the Khanna Amendment, which would actually force the release of those documents?
The Khanna Amendment is the most appropriate step that can be taken in order to provide the American people with the transparency they deserve in terms of this whole sordid, scandalous, and corrupt Jeffrey Epstein matter. This is very simple. The American people simply need to know the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as it relates to this situation. Democrats didn't put this into the public domain. A conspiracy theory provocateur in chief, Donald Trump, is the one, along with his extreme MAGA Republican associates, who put this whole thing into the public domain for years. And now they are reaping what they have sown.
On that same topic, do you expect all Democrats to be signing on to the discharge petition to release Epstein information?
It's my understanding that the discharge petition may not even ripen until after we return from the August district work period. So let's take one step at a time. And the most important thing that can be done at this moment is for Congress to act in a bipartisan way to demand that the American people get the transparency that they deserve. What is the Trump administration hiding from the American people? That's the question that needs to be answered.
What are you hoping to learn from your meeting, provided it happens tomorrow, with something in Mamdani? And on top of that, Republicans are certainly trying to cast him as a liability for Democrats. Do you see him as such?
We're going to have a very robust discussion in the event that we are able to proceed tomorrow, but at some point shortly thereafter, if we are not, about quality of life issues important to the people that I represent in the 8th Congressional District in New York, related to affordability, safety, and the ability to make sure that New York City remains a place that working families, middle-class folks, and all those who aspire to be part of the middle class can continue to call home. At the same period of time, I do look forward to having a conversation with our Democratic nominee about the importance of everyone being on the same page in terms of taking back control of the House of Representatives in 2026.
On the issue of redistricting, you were asked a couple of days ago about whether governors in blue states should draw mid-decade lines to counter the efforts in Texas and North Carolina. You would defer to those governors. Since then, Gavin Newsom has come out pretty strongly and said he's ready to pull the trigger and do that to counter what's going on in Texas. Given that development, can you weigh in a little bit more? Do you think it's a good idea, a bad idea? Does it set a bad precedent? And are you in discussions with the governor about doing that very thing?
It's all options on the table at this moment because of the existential threat that Republicans have posed to the health, safety, and economic well-being of the American people. As Democrats, we just want fair maps across the country. And to the extent that governors in different states throughout the nation conclude that a reevaluation as to whether their current maps are as fair as possible should take place, that certainly is a decision that makes sense to me in this environment.
The House is expected to vote on a trio of crypto bills later today or perhaps tomorrow. I'm just wondering if you know yet how you'll be planning to vote, because I know Democratic leaders aren't planning to whip those bills.
I certainly will make a decision about all three bills in advance of me arriving on the floor of the House of Representatives. We, as you have pointed out, have made the decision not to whip those bills. And so every single member, myself included, are evaluating the individual merits of each of those pieces of legislation to determine what makes the most sense for the communities that we're privileged to represent.
And relatedly, with the defense bill, the total defense spending this year is going to be at or above $1 trillion for the first time. I'm wondering if you have any specific concerns about the spending there, allocations, if you think it should, be different in any significant ways.
Here's the thing about Donald Trump, House Republicans, and the GOP. These are people who have for years claimed to be the party of fiscal responsibility. They're not the party of fiscal responsibility. These people are reckless and irresponsible as it relates to taxpayer dollars. The Republicans just passed this one big ugly law that explodes the debt and the deficit and is leading America down a path of potential economic disaster and bankruptcy as a result of Republicans jamming this extreme partisan bill down the throats of the American people. We clearly have to get our fiscal house in order, but it is certainly the case that Republicans have zero credibility as it relates to spending taxpayer dollars in a manner that is efficient, effective, and equitable. Politics, at the end of the day, is about the management of public money. And the one thing.
All right, so you were listening there to Congressman Hakeem Jeffries, but I do actually want to take you out live right now to Tammy Bruce, who is speaking at the State Department.
The White House coverage you've been doing. Thank you. But we were proud of you, if I may say. And yes, very good job. And not a lot of people would be as composed. I certainly am not when I'm there and talking to him. So yes, very impressive. So I do have a few comments for you as we begin the briefing here today at State. To begin, an update on the situation in Syria. The United States unequivocally condemns this violence. All parties must step back and engage in meaningful dialogue that leads to a lasting ceasefire. Why? Whoever's got the music going, that's a lovely touch, but we really need it to be turned off. All right.
Sorry, can you repeat it again?
I'm going to start again at the stop. Please turn off your phones. Please turn off the sound. Do not disturb. You don't have to have it on airport, but although I could say that we are an airplane, but we're not. Let's start again, shall we? And welcome aboard to everybody watching at home. We know C-SPAN covers this live as well. We appreciate that. And of course, we're a little late today, but actually every time is the perfect time because our colleague Karoline had her later briefing. So here we are right now. So to begin, an update on the situation in Syria. The United States unequivocally condemns the violence. All parties must step back and engage in meaningful dialogue that leads to a lasting ceasefire. In a tweet this morning, Ambassador Tom Barrack, also, of course, our special envoy for Syria, said, thankful to all sides for their break from chaos and confusion as we attempt to navigate all parties to a more durable and peaceful solution in Syria. Over the last 48 hours, the United States has led diplomatic efforts to promote real de-escalation and peace. As Secretary of State Marco Rubio noted yesterday, we have engaged all the parties involved in the clashes in Syria. We have agreed on specific steps that will bring this troubling and horrifying situation to an end tonight. This will require all parties to deliver on the commitments they have made, and this is what we fully expect them to do. We are actively engaging all constituencies in Syria to navigate towards calm and continued discussions on integration and a stable, more prosperous future for all Syrians. To that end, we are calling on the Syrian government to lead in determining the path forward. Now, today, the United States also sanctioned TDA leader Hector Rutherford Guerrero Flores, also known as Nino Guerrero, and 5 other key members. The Department of State, through the Transnational Organized Crime Rewards Program, managed by the Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs, is offering a reward of up to $5 million for information leading to the arrest and/or conviction of Guerrero. TDA is a foreign terrorist organization that originated in Venezuela and has launched a campaign of terror throughout our hemisphere. We are determined to protect Americans by eliminating TDA's vicious criminal activities. In addition, yesterday, the United States, the Kingdom of Bahrain, and the United Kingdom marked the UK's ascension to the Comprehensive Security, Integration, and Prosperity Agreement, CCPA. This milestone framework builds on the historic Abraham Accords and is aimed at fostering broader integration in the Middle East, bolstering mutual deterrence against external threats, and expanding cooperation to advance security, stability, and prosperity in the region. And finally, for today's topper, starting today, Secretary Rubio decided to end the ordered departure status for the U.S. Mission Iraq personnel, including personnel at the U.S. Embassy Baghdad and U.S. Consulate General Erbil. Personnel who are temporarily relocated outside of Iraq will begin a gradual return to U.S. Embassy Baghdad and Consulate General Erbil. The State Department's travel advisory for Iraq remains at a level 4, which of course translates to do not travel. We remain strongly committed to advancing our policy priorities in Iraq, strengthening Iraq's sovereignty, advancing U.S. business interests, and engaging with Iraqi leaders and the Iraqi people. The State Department, U.S. Embassy Baghdad, and Consulate General Erbil will continue to closely monitor and assess, as you might imagine, the security situation across Iraq and the region. And that is the conclusion of my announcements. And I'm ready to take your questions. And we'll start with the young lady who was in the White House first. So we'll start with Nadia right now.
Thank you. I want to follow up with what you said. The president spoke with Prime Minister Netanyahu. He just issued a statement to say he's very sorry about targeting, or not targeting, but by attacking this church. He said it was done by mistake. But the State Department and the White House put a priority on protecting minorities, especially Christians. How can you make sure that Christians in Gaza are protected? We have 3 people dead, including 88-year-old woman from Ayad family. And to make sure that these people are not actually targeted, but as the Prime Minister said, because there have been many incidents before, Tammy, as you know, they targeted the Russian Orthodox Church before.
Yes, well, in this case, of course, it was an accident. I think that the response from Netanyahu is an appropriate start. Of course, we share condolences to the citizens, the civilians' deaths at the Roman Catholic Church. We have asked that Israel investigate the strike still, of course, and ensure that all civilians, including Christian civilians, remain safe. That's one of our, of course, regular asks of everyone as we try to stop war and engage with ceasefires because of the horrible dynamics that exist across the world when this goes on. There's no benefit to this, any kind of military action, no real benefit at all. So Israel did express a deep sorrow over the damage and over any civilian casualties, and the IDF, they do know, is investigating. And of course, for further information, we refer you to the government of Israel. I can tell you, as I think Karoline also noted, that President Trump also spoke to the Prime Minister. And I think it's an understatement to say that he was not happy that this is, again, the kind of thing that reinforces his commitment to peace around the world. I've spoken with the Secretary today at length on a number of issues. Obviously, everyone is appalled. I can tell you, for those who haven't seen it and for those at home, the Israeli Foreign Ministry has said, Israel expresses deep sorrow over the damage to the Holy Family Church in Gaza City and over any civilian casualty. The IDF is examining the incident, the circumstances of which is still unclear, and the results of the investigation will be published transparently. Israel never targets churches or religious sites and regrets any harm to a religious site or to uninvolved civilians. The IDF has a statement as well. The IDF is aware of reports regarding damage caused to the Holy Family Church in Gaza City and casualties at the scene. The circumstances of the incident are under review. The IDF makes every feasible effort to mitigate harm to civilians and civilian structures, including religious sites, and regrets any damage caused to them. So this is, I think, a good indication of their realizing what the world expects, what we expect, and of course, appreciating POTUS's contact as well, which is helpful for all of us. Nadia, one more. Yes, ma'am.
Syria. Yesterday, the secretary told us at the Oval Office that the conflict in Sweden is between the Bedouins and the Druze. Do you rule out any involvement of foreign fighters or ISIS fighters in what we have seen, witnessed in the last 3 days, including atrocities against civilians?
Well, there will be obviously, there will need to be some continued investigation of the nature of what's occurred. We saw, of course, the president and the secretary note, both of them, that they've been involved. And certainly our special envoy, Tom Barrack, is also, of course, the ambassador to Turkey. And we know what we know at this point. Clearly, there has to be more investigation into the nature of how this started. But ultimately, the discussions have created a dynamic where the Syrians have withdrawn. Israel has not continued. That has ceased. And of course, there continue to be skirmishes. This is a rivalry between the Druze and the Bedouins. That's, I think, 400 years old. This is, though, one of those challenges that, if perhaps confronted in the modern age, with new possibilities of living together, that is the kind of thing we now know must be addressed. So we've had some success. You heard in my topper the Secretary's continued optimism, and Ambassador Barrack, of course, is returning and will be involved. And of course, I can tell you also that we unequivocally condemn the violence that has unfolded there. All parties must step back and engage in meaningful dialogue that leads to a lasting ceasefire. Of course, we know those lines from various other locations, but we also have committed to them, and we engage with them as we are also in this case. Over the last 48 hours, the United States has led the diplomatic efforts to promote real de-escalation and peace. We are actively engaging all constituencies in Syria to navigate toward calm and continued discussions on integration and a stable, more prosperous future for Syrians. And that continues. That has been the mission of Envoy Barrack, and it remains the mission of President Trump and Secretary Rubio. All right. Yes, ma'am. Humaira.
Hi, Tammy. I just want to understand, my colleagues asked about this yesterday, but did you guys get to the bottom of the misunderstanding that Secretary Rubio talked about yesterday? We see it in a different wording again today in Ambassador Barrack's tweet or post. Confusion. What was this misunderstanding, and did the U.S. government intervene in a way to assure that this misunderstanding will not happen going forward again?
You seem a little skeptical, but I don't know if I know some people at home can see some of the reporters here in the first two rows.
I guess that's a prerequisite in this job.
Yes, perhaps it is. But for those who don't know, the language from Ambassador Barrack's tweet: thankful to all sides for their break from chaos and confusion as we attempt to navigate all parties to a more durable and peaceful solution in Syria. And I noted to you already the language from the Secretary. The confusion, as was conveyed to me and was, I think, generally understood, was this ancient rivalry between the Druze and the Bedouins, and violence ensuing. The Syrians moving to that area to quell and stop that violence, and the Israelis who see that occurring to the Druze community and their concerns, then entered what they assessed was something larger than what, or even not what it was at all. I am not a party to the full discussions or to the details of obviously of all of these groups and nations and what their choices were. But when the secretary chose and the president chose to use the word miscommunication or misunderstanding, obviously here now from the ambassador, chaos and confusion. The good news is, the story is, it stopped as within the management of that larger conflict and other issues that, as we've also noted, the Syrian government is going to have to lead. But with, obviously there'll be other involvements, but lead into this de-escalation and to the stability. So this is a reminder, and you weren't here, but as I noted to one of your colleagues who asked as well yesterday, that this is a region and certainly a nation that has been unstable, which is why we talk about stability, for generations. There have been rivalries for hundreds of years. We are optimistic people. Humans tend to be that. And our effort is to try to bring this together and to stop it. The answer to whether or not there's hope is the fact that there has been a response that the parties have acquiesced and are dealing with that response, and that we are committed to seeing this problem that emerged. And now we know what to work on to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Right. My follow-up to that is related to something that you just said. U.S. is pursuing stability in Syria, as far as I can tell, lifting of the sanctions. And
I promise you that's what we're pursuing.
Right.
Yes.
So does it support Israel carrying out these military operations when it deems necessary?
I can tell you regarding Israel's intervention and activity is the United States did not support recent Israeli strikes. We are engaging diplomatically with Israel and Syria at the highest levels, both to address the present crisis and reach a lasting agreement between the two sovereign states. President Trump has outlined his clear vision of a prosperous Middle East and stable Syria at peace with itself and its neighbors. Peace among neighbors, including Israel and Syria, is a critical component of this vision. So I won't speak to future conversations or past ones. What we're dealing with now is this particular episode, what was required. And I think we've been very clear about our displeasure. Certainly the president has, and we've worked very quickly to have it stop. All right. Yes.
Thank you, Tammy. Just back to your talk on Syria, you mentioned you condemn.
And let's stick with Syria for a bit while we're in it, just so you know, and then we'll continue on, of course. Go ahead.
You mentioned that you condemn the violence. Are you specifically talking about the Druze Bedouin
all the
violence,
violence,
or also
all
the
violence?
Israeli strikes?
Clearly, this started between those two groups, and what we know is that violence erupted. Well, there's a continuing long issue between those two tribes, and then two major nations began to engage. Obviously, we then engaged, and it stopped. And that is, for me, a very, very proud moment. It's a remarkable situation being here at the State Department and here at this podium and taking this job, is to be an observer of actions that can be taken that stop what could end up being major global horrible issues. And we continue to work on some. We've been successful on others, but it was a very heartening and wonderful to see the work in that regard. So I think that it's the violence in general that appalls the president, that disturbs the secretary, and it is what we all want, even though we've grown used to it. But it's possible. And if anyone can make it happen, if any country can, it's the United States, and it's the president and it's Secretary Rubio. All right. Yes, Sean.
Can I follow up your answer that you gave to the America, so that the United States does not support recent Israeli strikes? Can we say that the United States won?
Oh, boy.
Yes,
I know. It was suddenly the voice of God. Don't want to give you any hints there.
That's always my aspiration.
Yes, there we go.
Just getting back on serious note, you said that the United States opposed the Israeli strikes.
Yes.
Two parts to that. Was there a message beforehand that Israel should not do this? And now going forward, will the U.S. continue to reject Israeli military?
Well, as you know, I won't speculate. I'm not going to comment on what was or was not said prior to the situation that we're dealing with currently, nor will I speculate about every situation is different. I am not going to speculate or guess. None of us should at what the leaders of our country might do under any other certain circumstance.
Well, just to, also at the beginning, you were talking about how Syria and the Syrian government needs to lead a future path. I forget
Yes.
the exact words. But is there a long-term solution? I mean, you mentioned that the United States helped diffuse the situation, but this is essentially the Syrian forces leaving part of what is part of Syrian territory. Are you seeing a long-term demilitarization? Is that what the U.S.
Well, I know it's about Syria taking the lead in determining the path forward. And so that was a very specific way that it was put. And I think there's a few people who have an idea of what's possible in what seems to be maybe an impossible situation, but we don't see it that way. And I think that's where new ideas, new solutions can emerge, is when you don't give up to what you think is impossible. So I can't comment on what the strategy would be, what individuals imagine. It is a region that is ancient, and the people are ancient, and it is the modern world. And I think we now provide a chance, our generations do, to have a different kind of path forward.
Just one more point on.
All right.
I mean, one of the points that Israel is making is that there are jihadists involved in this, and that some of the violence has been against Druze. Is there any concern about linkages potentially between the Syrian government, and is that something that the U.S. has seen? Is that something that the U.S. would?
Well, I know that from the beginning, the issue was, of course, working with the new Syrian government on dealing with the problem of ISIS. That's I think a unifying dynamic. We know that ISIS has been an issue. We know in that region, my goodness, look at what we've been facing with Iran and state sponsors of terrorism, and what we've all experienced for quite some time. So we know that has to be part of which I won't preview anything for you because I'm not a part of that team, but we know that matters deeply to Envoy Barak. And everyone is clear-eyed about what this is, and yet it won't stop them from trying. But the good news is that the good and the bad news is that we have enough history to know what's solvable, what isn't. I recall before President Trump's first term that this idea of getting rid of ISIS as it was moving around the globe, that it was going to be impossible. It would take 30 years. This is just a giant, horrible thing that we would just have to learn to adapt to, but it could never be crushed. President Trump did not believe that and chose to move forward anyway. And I think it was about 18 months, 2 years at the most, and he eradicated ISIS. And so we know that there's in order for something new to happen, you've got to have the idea first. We have that. Again, we're not naive, but we are optimistic. I think that is the history of the American people. And we're going to continue on that. We have good representatives helping us with that as well. Yes, sir.
You said that the US did support the Israeli strikes. And you were asked about any conversations beforehand, but what about afterwards? I mean, Karoline Leavitt had said that the president called Prime Minister Netanyahu, or they spoke on the phone today, in which he condemned the strike in Gaza. But was that lack of support for the strikes on Syria, was that also conveyed to Prime Minister Netanyahu?
Well, I don't know. I wasn't on the call. We were not informed of those details. Karoline had what she chose to share with you, but so I won't get ahead of guessing what the conversation was.
Just one other
Yes.
question about, I mean, you've said in the church strike, you've asked Israel to investigate that. Ambassador Huckabee said yesterday that the US has asked Israel to investigate the death of Saif Musaleh, the Palestinian American who was
Yes.
killed. And yet in the same 24-hour period, he tweeted that there was a travesty of justice by the in terms of the investigation of Benjamin Netanyahu. He called them the insanity of out-of-control prosecutors. So I'm just trying to understand how a system that appears that you don't have faith in over the investigation of Mr. Netanyahu is good enough to investigate the deaths of Palestinians.
Well, I would not want to characterize the ambassador's comments, but they were his remarks. If you want him to elaborate on those, you can. What I speak to here is the mission and the statement and the actions that the State Department and the President of the United States has taken and that the government is taking. And not just these two issues, but our overall view and vision of what's going to be important in the world and how we react to it. So that I'm not going to characterize or place the ambassador's comments in any kind of context.
That was his view to be the president.
Yeah. Well, it's not where I'm going to go. It's not what we're discussing today. All right. All right. Yes. Yes, Michelle.
I have a different topic.
Well, do we have any more Syria? All right. We'll come back. So, Michelle, you'll be the start of that. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tony. On the path forward and also the long-term solution, which Sean asked you. Do you believe that the only path forward in Syria is that the all constituency or the minority group is to integrate with a centralized government, or have these the recent escalation, changed your view? And do you think that federalism or some sorts of autonomy is a viable solution for the current situation in Syria?
Well, part of starting something like this so new is I don't think it's really ever happened before, is looking at the nature of what works and what doesn't. Clearly, the people of Syria view themselves as Syrians. That is part of, I know, what was discussed earlier, of the nature of how you're going to have a government like that and for that nation be able to represent and include everyone. The issue was including them. Of course, every government is going to be, and should be, the decision, how it's formed, the nature of what it represents, should be the decision of the people of that country. But you've got to have a chance to start with the very basics, which is stability, infrastructure, some modicum of peace that you can rely on. And we expect, again, there's been instability. So the stability part, you work on and you assess it as it continues, and then you see what needs to be addressed. And that's what we're helping with. So it clearly is going to be up to the Syrian people. But the way that it would work is that because we've seen the history of when everyone is not included, of what can happen. But that is, again, this is where the negotiators, those who are wise enough to be envoys, who delve into this, which is the hardest work in the world, we'll leave that to people like Ambassador Barrack and President Trump and Secretary Rubio.
Yeah, help me if I'm understanding you correctly.
All right, so you're listening right there to the briefing that is underway at the State Department with Tammy Bruce answering a lot of questions there about the conflict in Syria. We do have to sneak in a quick 2-minute commercial break, but on the other side, we'll lift that audio right back up. I also do want to give you this live image as we are awaiting the arrival of Texas Governor.
Others receive it if you want to contact us with that information. Regarding comments made in a bill, the nature of certain cuts, each situation is very unique and different. As we've, of course, as you know, we've just completed essentially a several month-long reorganization and some cuts regarding how foreign aid is applied and implemented and distributed. I would just repeat that even though there are cuts and we're looking at reforming certain dynamics, it doesn't mean that our efforts will stop. It doesn't mean because something looks different that it's going away. It might be handled differently, but I can't speak to the specifics that you mentioned. But what I do know that what matters to the Secretary and what we've expressed regarding that region and the work we're doing there is that what we need to have done will get done and will be funded and we'll move forward with it. All right. Yes.
Thanks, Tim. I'm hoping to ask about an update to the situation where the 500 tons of high energy biscuits are set to expire in a warehouse in the Middle East. The statement from the department yesterday said that the U.S. would always look to try to avoid any kind of food waste, try to repurpose it. Is there any indication that repurposing might happen at this point?
Well, there's a lot of interesting numbers that have been moving about with this story. There's some basic responses I can give you, including the fact that if something is expired, we will destroy it. It's a matter of whether or not it's safe to distribute. But I think what's important and what part of the story is here, and a lot of people don't know this, is that we have been feeding the world's hungry for generations. And we've done it because we can. The issue is are we doing it as efficiently as we can and as smartly as we can? We, as an example, distribute roughly 1 million metric tons of food aid every year, which is reflective of the American people's generosity. Of the 1 million tons of food distributed annually by the United States, 500 metric tons of high energy biscuits also is part of what your question is in the news has been that they were destroyed and they were expired, and yet that 500 metric tons represents less than 1% of the food aid that we distribute around the world. I would also note the difference in its situation where why those biscuits were stored. Americans don't realize, perhaps many do, that we store emergency food all around the world for people in the event of a catastrophe in that region. So we have food that we purchase and it goes to, let's say, the World Food Program or to another distributor assigned to specific sites for distribution. And then we have food that is assigned to be held in the event of an emergency. Those are emergency frameworks, and they are not distributed. They're there in the event that obviously something horrible happens and you need that kind of nutrition. That's where those biscuits were. That was 500 metric tons of what they say HEB, high energy biscuits. And that is less than 1% of the food aid that we distribute, as I've mentioned. The best analogy I can use is that I think most of us have, I do, I'll just refer to myself, a lot of batteries in a battery carrier that I don't use, that they're there in the event of an emergency and the electricity is down, and I know what needs batteries and what doesn't need batteries. And if you wait long enough and there's no emergency, they start to do weird things. They start to sometimes bubble over and get a little corroded.
That's why you should use candles.
That's right. Candles, perfect in earthquake country also. Yes. Batteries, though, we have them. They're situated. Other survival stuff, you situate it, and then you have to get rid of it if fortunately you don't have to use it. That's this story. The story here is the nature of the commitment of the United States to food aid, which we all commit to, but also still, like everything else, doing it more efficiently, with less expense, but with the same framework. So yes, I mean, there's a dynamic there where we're going to destroy, and we have before, the emergency food rations in particular that might expire, and then replenish that.
So
All right, well, we'll finish her questions, and then I'll come to you, Matt. Yeah,
We're
we'll
just
finish. Go
going to say
ahead.
that Deputy Secretary Regas did say yesterday on the Hill that this was something that he found distressing. He said it appears to be a failure. Just this dynamic here, is there any effort within the department now to look at expiration dates at those warehouses around the world that are hosting these high energy biscuits and make sure that a dynamic like this doesn't happen again in the spirit of efficiency?
Yes, DMR Regas, he's a deputy secretary here at the State Department. He said a number of other things indicating, and I'll read part of his testimony to you as well in this regard. He said, we're still the biggest giver of aid anywhere in the world by far. So this is a media account. So I'd want to look into, forgive me if I don't take everything in the media that's reported as 100% factual, but I do want to find out what happened here and get to the ground truth. So the fact is that what I've described to you is the case. The numbers that are being reported are wildly incorrect. Without the context of what the food is there for. It is, considering the nature of the situation, I would say that this, if the implication there was that this was due to the USAID action or a pause or something, I would say that that is incorrect. But the deputy, I think, noted the fact that there's a number of things that can affect this, and I've describe some of them to you. At the same time, we are involved in looking at all of our systems. That's been the case from really day one. That's been a commitment of the secretary, not just of aid technically and the structure of the building, which we've been just through, changing that for more efficiency. But that is, I think, a hallmark of what matters to Secretary Rubio, and something that we will continue to do, which inevitably would address this dynamic as well. But I have to say, for 1%, when you are moving 1 million metric tons of food around the world every year, for 1% to be the factor that has to get destroyed is a remarkable record. And if there is a suggestion that we're not doing it right or we're not doing enough, it is fair to say that we will not be lectured about the issue of food aid or what we do for the rest of the world, being the world's largest supporter of people with food and other aid. We have been, we are now, and we will be. All right.
So, Tammy,
Yeah. Yes, Matt.
sorry.
Oh, don't be sorry. You're never really sorry. Go ahead.
Well, maybe,
It's all right.
maybe not.
Maybe not.
I just, are you making a case that that these biscuits were not needed? That there was
Oh, well,
no
that's
need for
that's
them?
very clever.
No, I'm just trying to figure out, you said-
I'm presenting the context that we have stations of food around the world that are specifically aligned to being held for an emergency, while we then distribute 1 million tons of food around the world in immediate need frameworks that are destined for a certain place. It would, and then that gets replenished. So it's not that it wasn't needed. It served its purpose. It was needed. It was needed to be held in the event that there was an emergency. And that was accomplished, and it will continue to be accomplished.
So you don't think there was an emergency in Gaza or?
Oh, yes. And it's interesting. We contribute and have aided emergencies around the world through this time. We were not waiting for anything in a holding station. As I don't know, I won't say it again. We are the largest giver of food aid and provider of aid around the world. Certainly a food aid, 1 million metric tons of food. So it's not like because those biscuits are in the emergency section that we simply went home to watch television. We are the largest provider. We are proud of that, and we will continue to be.
Committing that this administration will continue to provide 1 million metric tons of emergency food aid around the world?
Yes. You rarely ask me to speculate or on a hypothetical situation. We are going to continue to be the world's largest giver of aid and of food. We are going to be doing it in a smarter, more efficient manner, but it is our nature to do so. And I've said it from the beginning. You guys have heard me. Yes, things are changing. They look different, but we are still in the foreign aid business, and we're going to be better about it. I think that's pretty clear. Saeed, you've been very patient, sir.
I think you actually related to this topic in a way. Yesterday, Tom Fletcher, the UN Emergency Relief Coordinator, and Catherine Russell, the Executive Director of UNICEF, they basically told the UN Security Council, they painted a horrific picture of how children are suffering in Gaza. They're saying that, the war is going on, but the children are bearing the brunt of it. There's about 17,000 kids have been killed since the beginning of the war. They spoke of no water or no clean water. They spoke of waterborne diseases because it's not clean and so on. No fuel. The hospitals are not working.
Saeed, we know war is horrible. We know. We know.
And she said that, like on daily basis, 28 kids get killed, since October 7 until now on average.
Yes, it's horrible. It's horrible. He has a question, though. We'll get to it right now, I trust.
My question to you.
Yes.
Is the United States government happy with the level of aid that is going on, the level of water that's going on, the level of fuel that is going in?
All right.
And or are we likely to see some changes that will
yes, I
impact
understand.
the lives of kids?
Saeed, in every war, in every conflict that is going on this day, someone is suffering, someone is being killed, a child is suffering, a child is dying. We've seen the images. That is one of the issues we talked yesterday about, the immediacy of media. We now see those images. I remember growing up and we were shocked that we could see some of the footage of the combat in Vietnam. That was a turning point I was a child. I had no idea. My mother was appalled. And things now, you get it on your phone in a moment. We know the suffering. I have this conversation with you, Saeed, every time I see you. We're both, I understand your concern. I've committed my time in this season to address that as well, as have everyone else in this building, as have Americans. We're proud of being Americans because of what we've been able to accomplish for the world. What I can say is that it is, I think you used the word happy. Of course we're not happy. Who's happy with these developments? It's war. It is, while it is common, it is unnatural. It's an obscene display of what humans are capable of. And that is why we work to stop it. And the people who aren't stopping it are Hamas. So when you think about why this continues in the Gaza Strip and organizations who have condemning the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation and their delivery of over 70 million meals at this point, the fact is there is one group responsible, and that's Hamas. They are still holding dead bodies. They're still holding live people. They are still murdering people. So if the onus is on us trying to move through that obscene environment, and we do what we can, which will never be enough. Saeed, I don't know if it's because you want me to repeat this or if you forget what I say, it is worth repeating sometimes that we understand this, and it's why we do what we do. It is why the president is passionate, why the secretary is passionate, and why I stand at this podium, and why all of you are in this room, because we don't like much of what we see. We have successes sometimes, but of course it's not good enough. And it won't be, because the only time children will have exactly what they need is when Hamas is gone, when the terrorists are not controlling a swath of land, and when peace is generated by a government that its people have chosen and is not based in the inhumane slaughter of people. Yes, sir. All right, so you, yes, you, sir, and then we'll go. Right.
Thank you very much. I have two quick questions. You are aware.
Make them not quick, but go ahead. Yes.
The militia have intensified their attacks on the Kurdistan regional government's oil fields and on U.S. companies operating in Iraq, action that threaten the stability of the global energy market. These attacks are no different from what the Houthis in Yemen are doing against international trade. What responsibilities do the Iraqi state and the international community have in addressing this situation?
You know, obviously that is an issue that we are concerned about. I have put out a statement, which I don't know by heart. I am going to ask, well, where's my Tommy? Is my principal deputy not here? Where did he go? All right. Nicole, I know my statement's in here, and I'd like to read it for everyone regarding the Kurdistan situation. Nicole, could I ask you to come up? Actually, you'll have to come up here. I know it's not that intimidating. It isn't. Everyone, this is Nicole, a woman who makes a great deal possible in this building. She does this for me all the time.
And if I can't find it there, I'll pull it up.
Yeah.
I'll pull it up for you and give it to you in just a second.
All right, great. So we'll get that. We're concerned enough, obviously, to where I issued a statement on the attack, essentially, in Kurdistan. And I do want, because I wasn't able to answer it yesterday, and I do want to get that to you. So I'm going to come back to that. Did you have a second question, sir?
Second question, on Friday in the Kurdistan regional government, some PKK members surrendered their weapons as a goodwill gesture in support of the peace process in the Turkey.
Yes.
What is your position on this?
So we're aware of the videos of the members of the PKK, which is the Kurdistan Workers' Party, burning their weapons in a public ceremony, as we know. So that's very important. They wanted people to see them actually doing it. That was in northern Iraq last Friday. We consider the PKK a foreign terrorist organization. So any move to lay down arms and remove that threat is a welcome step. And of course, we know that the SDF remains a great partner in the fight against ISIS. And now it's time for them to integrate into, is this the same, hold on. Well, this is moving more back into Syria. So we're gonna wait on that. And I think you found my statement on the other issue. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate that. This is, I didn't used to have to do this when I was 20. Many of you have to do this. The United States strongly condemns the drone attacks that have been targeting oil fields in the Iraqi Kurdistan region since July 14th. These attacks imperil Iraq's stability and economic future. The government of Iraq has a duty to protect its territory and all of its citizens. These strikes target international companies that are working with Iraq to invest in Iraq's future. The United States remains committed to our partners across Iraq who are working to build a stable, federal, and sovereign state. All right. Yes, go ahead, Eric.
Thank you, Tammy. Two questions. We saw Secretary Rubio's very important meeting with Foreign Minister of China, Wang Yi, last Friday in Malaysia. Secretary Rubio said it was very constructive. We're now reporting that the president of Taiwan plans to transit the United States next month. And I wanted to ask if there's any concern about expected or foreseeable Chinese reaction, because we've seen in the past, for instance, in December, when the president transited Hawaii and Guam, we saw China's largest naval deployment in years along the first island chain. And is there any concern that at a time when, coming off of this high of the secretary's meeting with his counterpart, that the presence of the Taiwanese president will somehow be counterproductive or disturbing to this point that's been reached?
Well, I think you mentioned that they had met, and I would refer you back to his comments following that meeting. He stated that this was not a warning meeting and that the discussion was constructive and positive. And I remember his attitude, and I appreciated that. And also, he noted, I want to reiterate that transits by the Taiwan president are fully consistent with our longstanding policy and practice. I don't want to necessarily attach that to the secretary. I'm not sure that that's what he said, but that is the case. I would also say that transits of the United States by high-level Taiwan officials, including presidents, are again in line with past practice and fully consistent with our longstanding policy, and such transits are undertaken with consideration for the safety, comfort, convenience, and dignity of the passenger. All right.
All right, so what you were listening to right there was Tammy Bruce as she is speaking at the U.S. State Department, going a little bit longer than normal there as she's answering a question on really a variety of topics there, including the situation in Syria. Right now, I do want to take you for a live look at our XRAD system. You can see we are tracking this storm right here, and also
we continue the process of recovering bodies, of removing debris, of rebuilding. And the early process of getting people back into homes or to where they were living. I do need to share with you an updated number, two updated numbers. The numbers that I have of those who have lost their lives statewide in this flooding episode in the month of July is now 135. Those who have lost their lives in the Kerrville area because of the floods is now 116. And we will continue the search for everybody in every single region that was affected by these devastating floods. And while Kerrville has drawn a lot of attention, and there's reasons for it, I think it's the largest flood in the history of Texas. And more people lost their lives in Kerrville than those who lost their lives in Hurricane Harvey, just to understand the magnitude of it. But during all of that, we have been focused on what was going on in Tom Green County. And we began working with Tom Green County since at least the day before the storms hit, beginning on July the 3rd. On July the 3rd, the state deployed Texas Task Force 1 boat crews to be here and be available in the event they were needed. And it turned out they were needed. We also deployed other resources and assets to make sure that there would be the ability to respond, including a boat crew that was sent to Brady on July the 3rd, the day before the flooding took place. I issued a state disaster declaration for Tom Green County on July the 4th and requested a federal disaster declaration for Tom Green County on July the 10th. And it was granted the next day. Now, in Tom Green County, we are working with officials and working with the community to go through the many stages of the recovery process. Part of that is helping individuals in the tough challenges they're facing, whether it be mental, emotional, physical, or property or family, whatever the case may be. We have so many agencies at the Disaster Recovery Center right now that are responding to the needs of people in the Tom Green County area. Other needs that are being made at the Disaster Recovery Center are needs concerning individual assistance. That individual assistance is now available because of the major disaster declaration that was granted by the federal government, by President Trump. Also, public assistance is available for Tom Green County to rebuild the roads and other structures, the county and city are responsible for. I mentioned it at the Disaster Recovery Center. We have today, but we'll have for days on end. More than a dozen state agencies available to help address the needs of the people in this community. Another thing that we're doing is gathering information that helped us understand the way the response was undertaken here. And I got to tell you, we've not seen a better response in the state of Texas. And there are articulated reasons for that. One is there was a great deal of collaboration at all levels from the very first minute all the way until this moment in time. The response by local officials was extraordinary. We actually, in talking to Chief Nim Kidd, we consider the way that Tom Green County, and I say the county, it obviously involves the city, your mayor, every local official at every level. We consider it to be a model for the way that communities need to respond to disasters like this. And we will talk more about that in the upcoming special session. But in talking to the officials about why they responded the way they did, they talked about being trained for events like this months in advance, being organized and then executing on what the game plan was, but also maintaining a sense of compassion for the needs of the people of this community. Most importantly, they prioritized saving lives. In any type of disaster, saving lives is the first and foremost thing that everybody should have. And that's exactly what took place here. I've heard so many stories about so many rescues that have taken place. Rescues that literally saved lives. Had it not been for those rescues, dozens of people in this community would have lost their life. And there are others that may not have lost their life, but they were still rescued, and they are now able to move forward because of the fact they were rescued. I had the chance to visit with local residents, and I wanted their input on what they were seeing and experiencing. And some words always came up, and that is that they said in San Angelo, we're one community. We are neighbor helping neighbor, and we share things with each other. And you get a sense of the moral clarity and values of the people in this region that provide a sense of resilience and continuity for such a great community. One person mentioned this is neighbor helping neighbor. Others have talked about enduring relationships, that it's those relationships that help them get through these challenging times. Going forward, the state is going to remain working with Tom Green County until the recovery is complete. I mentioned a special session. As you know, we have a special session beginning on this coming Monday. And we have two leaders with us right now that will be very involved in that special session on ensuring that not just Tom Green County, but that every county across the state is going to be evaluated, and we're going to look for strategies that we can pass laws on that will make preparation for these types of events better, make response to these types of events better, to make sure that we leave this disaster in a way that puts Texas in a better position going forward than we were before this devastating storm hit our state. I know that one thing that I also hear about that I want to just mention real quick, now that the storm has passed, the needs for housing have surfaced. And we are working at the Disaster Recovery Center on addressing those housing needs. In the meeting that we were at before coming out here, we talked about the pressing need to address housing. So it's one thing that's going to be happening at the DRC here in San Angelo. It's another thing that we will talk about in the course of the special session that's upcoming. We want to make sure that as we go into it and come out of that special session, we are striving to address every need of everybody in Tom Green County before that session is over. And now with that setup, I'm going to toss it to a senator who's going to be very involved in that special session, Senator Perry.
Thank you, Governor. And can't say enough that you came here, and it shows that Tom Green and people in it matter. And it's not true just for Tom Green. That's true for every Texan. And I appreciate your leadership. As the governor said, I don't know that the folks of Tom Green County can appreciate what was done, that had it not been for them, there would have been more lives lost. And so we're going to start the process this session, this special session. We didn't see this coming on your first call. Unfortunately, God and Mother Nature kind of had a different path, I think, for some of this. But I am confident that we will have a few hearings and figure out where we're at. What can we do better to prevent? What can we do better for mitigation? And that people will leave there hopefully informed, educated, but most importantly, hope. You know, that's the one thing that we can't do as a legislature is put hope in the hearts of the folks that have been impacted at the most deepest levels. But the God that created the heart can. And I just hope that for those that have that certainty, that I'm thankful for that. For those that don't, I hope they run to that creator and not from that creator in these times that we face across the state. I have all the confidence in the world. The state is big enough, to what the governor just said, that not one single person will be left behind when it comes to what they need addressed. And we'll find a way to do it. I wish I had all those answers today, Governor. We could save some special session time. But I trust my 181 colleagues in the House and the Senate. They're engaged. This is a serious issue. We've been here before as a state on some level. And we will come out shining as Texas always does. But I can't say enough about the leadership at the local level that we're having a different conversation today, if not for their efforts, Governor. And I look forward to engaging them into that process to make sure other communities can see a success story and what it looks like. But we're ready to go to work. And I thank you for your leadership and setting this up for us so we can have something to work on.
There you go. Thank you. Now, Representative Drew Darby.
Thank you, Governor. And again, on behalf of our community, welcome to San Angelo and to the Concho Valley. Your presence here demonstrates the focus of your office and of the state organizations to help this community and this region out in this important time. And your presence is valued, and we want to publicly show you our appreciation for that. NIMKID, Chief Kid, Texas Division of Emergency Management, thank you. You have been a presence here often, and that presence is very valued. Sean Baxter, your group that are here with us today are very important. The governor mentioned 12 state agencies. I bet there's a lot more state agencies are involved in the recovery here in this region. I think the governor's proclamation early on has made a difference. I know you have been working with surrounding counties, whether it be Concho County, I think Coke County just recently. Thank you for that. We've got to remember that it's not only San Angelo and Tom Green County, it's the communities and counties around us that are also impacted, and thank you for that. It is difficult when you see the tragedy that occurred in Kerrville area and the loss of life, and there are folks here in this audience that have loved ones that were impacted by that. Our congressman had two daughters that were there at that time. So, this is about, we cannot bring them back. We cannot undo that. But what we can do is learn from it. And I think that is what Senator Perry and I and you, of course, are going to carry into the special session is what can we learn from it? How can we prevent it? There's going to be natural disasters to occur in the future, but how do we prevent this loss of life? And thanks to the men and women behind us and to the first responders for your bravery, for your diligence, for your hard work and dedication to the proposition of saving our community. Thank you for that. And again, thank you all for being here.
Thank you very much. Now, Mayor Thompson.
First things first, thanks for coming here and seeing us. As a voice of the local people here, I want you to know that from the word go the morning of the 4th, we heard from every one of y'all, all of our first responders. Everybody became a first responder. But what was very impressive along this pattern and path was the communication downhill that said, don't let government get in your way. If you need help, let us know. And whatever you need, just ask. That rolled forward for 7, 10 straight days. City, municipal, state, federal people all came lockstep together to create a response where nobody was in the way. There were no egos in the room. It was, we'll do what we need to do to get it done. We developed many private-public partnerships, especially with our nonprofits, to let them manage and execute in areas that they have expertise that maybe city, state, municipal government do not, as far as housing, volunteer management, resource control. And they did an impeccable, outstanding job. Our reaction and response was great. Our recovery is going to be how we're going to be judged. And with the flow of assets coming from, say, Kerrville, this area up here, we have the opportunity to move our recovery from months to weeks.
Right.
And with y'all's help and the conversations we just had, I've never been as, I would say, as excited or more confident that not only is that our goal and ideal, it's also y'all's too. It's all comes down from state level. Make this happen. Take care of your citizens. We're going to help you with housing. We're going to try to help you navigate a path. Most important thing that everybody said in there was there's lots of things that we need to figure out what those are. Senator Perry, you said, let's not have false expectations on what's going to happen, but we're going to execute and try to get everything out to everybody we can as soon as we can. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now, Chief Nimkid.
Thank you, Governor. And I just want to tell the working media out there, thank you for being here with us and getting this message out, because the first responders of this community absolutely saved lives.
Right.
The local leadership, from the mayor, the judge, your emergency management coordinator, police and fire chiefs, sheriff, Texas Department of Public Safety, and the game wardens working together as one organization was an amazing feat. If the rest of the state worked like that, I would probably be out of a job. The work that was done here locally is second to none. Then I've got to thank all the volunteers that are out there.
Right.
We went through houses today where Samaritan's Purse and other volunteers were out there cleaning out the houses, putting the debris in the piles that it needs to be. Very few communities in this state have pre-positioned debris contracts. This one does. They're taking it seriously. Y'all are in good hands. Disasters are going to happen, but leadership like this at the local level will make that recovery so much faster. The volunteers that are out there working right now, if you see one on the street, stop and thank them. They're here for the goodness of good and the hearts and their kindness, and they will help you recover faster than any level of government ever will. So take care of your volunteers that are out here. Glad to be here with you, Governor.
Thank you very much. I want to double down on what Chief Kidd said about the volunteers. I had the opportunity to meet with many of them today, but know all that they're doing. And some of them are volunteers with organizations that existed long before this, and some are just volunteering on their own right now. And what these volunteers are doing, both here in this county as well as Kerr County and counties in between, are changing the face of Texas. We would not be able to be where we are or make it through the recovery process the way that we are without the volume of volunteers that we have. And I'll add this. I've never seen such generosity from our fellow Texans in supporting their communities, those in need. And I got to tell you, what you are providing in monetary resources to help these individuals in these communities is going to accelerate that rebuilding process. Every donation that's coming in that I'm working on is going to make sure is going to someone who's going to be having a home rebuilt or an RV trailer restored, whatever the case may be. We want people back in their homes as quickly as possible. And one thing that accelerates that process are the very generous donations that are coming from our fellow Texans. And with that, we'll take a few questions.
Governor Abbott, God bless you, first of all, and all of the folks that have labored to support the people of Texas here. What can we do now concerning an early warning system? I heard some of that mentioned in Kerrville, now here in San Angelo. Is there a plan in place for Texas to have an early warning system in case of flooding, tornadoes, etc.
And the team led by Mike Johnson and Steve Scalise that are going to join us. So I want to thank the Senate, thank my friend from college, Bill Haggerty, for putting together a great bill, finding 68 senators to vote for it. It's hard for the press corps to write the numbers, 6-8 for a vote in the Senate. So Bill delivered, and we have partnered with him to deliver here in the House. And now tomorrow, President Trump gets to sign into law his first of several bills to come that will help make America an incredible leader globally in digital assets. And with that, let me call on my good friend, my partner, my fellow Eagle Scout, G.T. Thompson, Chairman of the Ag Committee.
Thanks, Larry. Hey, well, good afternoon and happy Crypto Day. Now, what a way to celebrate passing 3 great crypto bills out of the House of Representatives. And I love it because, you know, the naysayers, the folks that look at our numbers, you know, that place odds that we're just not going to be able to get anything done. We have proved them wrong over and over and over. And Mr. Whip, we're not done yet, right? We got a long ways to go, but what a great success today. A success for America. You know, America was in the driver's seat and is known for internet or web 1.0, the internet of knowledge. And then came along internet 2.0, the internet of things. And of course, you know, that's America. We were at the epicenter of that within the world. But the question was, who was going to have control and have be the center of Web 3.0, the internet of value? And the competition was steep. It was great. Almost every nation in this world was positioning themselves to really be that home plate, that epicenter for the internet of value. But you know what? With what we did today, we have proven the United States of America will be the epicenter of Web 3.0 with these 3 pieces of legislation. Legislation that was principle-based legislation. With the Clarity Act, it was based on, number 1, was protecting consumers. That's extremely important to do. As somebody come out of healthcare and do no harm, that was important to our committees as we worked on that. But equally important was to provide legislation, a legislative map going forward, a regulatory regime to where we fostered innovation. Because this is not just about Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. This is about blockchain technology. And it's hard. I mean, we can't even imagine. We know what we can do today, but it's hard to imagine what we can do tomorrow over the horizon. But we can do that now with a framework like we've passed today. What a great team to work with. You know, French Hill and Dusty Johnson, Brian Stile, our speaker, leader, whip, and our Democratic colleagues. My thanks on the Agriculture Committee to my ranking member, my agriculture partner, Angie Craig, and Dawn Davis, who was really at the tip of the spear with the subcommittee serving with Dusty, did a great job. But, you know, we're celebrating right now, but we're not resting. We're not resting. We're looking forward. I mean, and what I see is a bright future for even more and even better. We've got a Senate Ag that's committed to move. In fact, 2 days ago, they had a hearing on market structures. We led by a mutual friend, Senator Bozeman. And then the Senate Banking Committee, which is committed to move, led by a fellow a former House member and a good friend to all of us, Tim Scott. And then we do have President Trump, who is committed to bringing our country into the future through the modernizing what really is the financial and technological sectors. And that's what we've done today. So I'll just, we'll take a few minutes to celebrate, but then quite frankly, we're going to be right back at it because we got a lot more to do and a lot more wins to put on the board. And I am really pleased to introduce a dear friend of mine. He serves on
from September 17th to September 19th later this fall. This will mark a truly unprecedented second state visit for President Trump, and he is honored and looking forward to meeting with His Majesty the King at Windsor Castle. There has been a wave of positive economic news over the past week, which I would like to highlight today. Joe Biden's inflation crisis has been defeated. Prices paid to American businesses for goods and services were flat in June, which is lower than all 50 forecasters in the Bloomberg survey predicted. And core inflation, which is the best measure of inflation, came in lower than expected again in the month of June. Since President Trump took office, core inflation has tracked at just 2.1% overall and has come in below or at economists' expectations every single month. Wages are growing at a strong pace and prices are falling for everyday Americans. We also saw prices for new and used vehicles and airfares drop last month. In addition, prices for gas, fuel oil, energy commodities, hotels, airfare, public transportation, and fresh vegetables are all down over last year. As we said all along, trust in President Trump. The American dream is back, and everyday families are already reaping the benefits of this incredible economic turnaround in just 6 months. President Trump has ended the era of economic surrender and implemented powerful tariffs to stand up for our workers and businesses and rebalance America's trading agreements. Despite all of the doom casting from the so-called experts claiming that these tariffs would be the end of the world as we know it, the opposite has occurred. Tariffs are not inflationary, as President Trump has said all along. In reality, tariffs are a source of massive revenue. We're seeing trillions of dollars in private investment pour into our country right now because the companies around this world want to make their products right here with American labor and not have to pay any tariffs at all. Customs and tariff revenue has already totaled more than $113 billion since President Trump entered office, helping to lead a budget surplus in June for the first time in nearly a decade.
If you or a loved one has been diagnosed with kidney cancer, liver cancer, or testicular cancer,
we are truly entering a golden age as a result of these pro-growth and America First trade policies. On another matter, yesterday in the East Room, the president was proud to sign the Halt All Lethal Trafficking of Fentanyl Act into law, surrounded by angel families to help finally end the devastating fentanyl crisis that has ravaged millions of Americans. Under the Halt Fentanyl Act, anyone who possesses, imports, distributes, or manufactures any illicit fentanyl-related substances will be subject to criminal prosecution in the same manner as any other Schedule I controlled substance. This legislation will close the loopholes that criminals use to skirt around the law and make it easier for law enforcement to prosecute vicious traffickers who peddle poison in our communities. President Trump has always made tackling the drug crisis a top priority, and this important bipartisan legislation further follows through on that commitment. The complete and total success at our southern border that many in the media in this room continue to ignore is another example of the president keeping his word to families who have lost loved ones due to fentanyl, and it's another win for the American people. Customs and Border Protection just released the final operationalized stats for the month of June, and I must highlight some of these incredible numbers. There were only 6,072 Southwest apprehensions in June, 15% lower than the previous record that this president set in the month of March. To put that in perspective, the Biden administration routinely saw the same number of encounters in a single day. And on many days, that number was more than 10,000 apprehensions at the Southwest border. There were also 0 illegal aliens released along the Southwest border for the second consecutive month in a row. President Trump promised to end the illegal alien invasion, and he has delivered on that promise to the American people in record time. With the border sealed, deportations are ramping up. This past weekend, our brave ICE agents were arresting violent criminal illegal aliens all across the country. ICE Atlanta arrested an illegal alien from Mexico, convicted of attempted rape of a child in North Carolina. ICE Baltimore arrested an illegal alien from Guatemala who was previously convicted for sexual abuse of a minor in Maryland. ICE Houston arrested a criminal illegal alien from Mexico whose previous conviction includes aggravated sexual assault of a child in Texas. ICE Salt Lake City arrested a 32-year-old illegal criminal alien from Mexico who was previously convicted for child abuse and injury. ICE Baltimore arrested a criminal illegal alien from El Salvador convicted in Maryland for possession of child pornography. And ICE San Antonio arrested a criminal illegal alien from Mexico convicted of aggravated sexual assault in Texas. The men and women of ICE are heroes. They are putting their lives on the line every day to get the worst of the worst, these types of criminals, out of our communities and out of our country. And the president continues to strongly have the backs of all ICE agents who are doing their jobs to keep all of us, including everyone in this room, safe. The facility, sorry, 1 second. In other news, following President Trump's bold executive actions protecting American children from irreversible chemical and surgical mutilation, the largest provider of these barbaric practices will now be closing its doors. The facility in Los Angeles, California, is just the latest facility downsizing or eliminating their irreversible and harmful services that feed into the lie that you can somehow change a child's sex. The Biden administration peddled dangerous policies that defied medical science in favor of radical transgender ideology. But President Trump has put an end to that to ensure America's children's innocence is protected and our children can lead healthy and productive lives. Finally, last night, Senate Republicans passed President Trump's $9 billion rescissions package. This will help restore fiscal sanity in our country by rescinding billions in wasteful foreign aid and finally ending taxpayer funding for PBS and NPR, two media organizations that have ridiculously used federal dollars to push a partisan left-wing agenda for many years. The House should pass this rescissions package immediately and send it to the president's desk for signature. On another note, I know that many in the media have been speculating about bruising on the president's hand and also swelling in the president's legs. So in the effort of transparency, the president wanted me to share a note from his physician with all of you today. In recent weeks, President Trump noted mild swelling in his lower legs. In keeping with routine medical care and out of an abundance of caution, this concern was thoroughly evaluated by the White House medical unit. The president underwent a comprehensive examination, including diagnostic vascular studies. Bilateral lower extremity venous Doppler ultrasounds were performed and revealed chronic venous insufficiency, a benign and common condition, particularly in individuals over the age of 70. Importantly, there was no evidence of deep vein thrombosis or arterial disease. Laboratory testing included a complete blood count, comprehensive metabolic panel, coagulation profile, D-dimer, B-type natriuretic peptide, and cardiac biomarkers. All results were within normal limits. An echocardiogram was also performed and confirmed normal cardiac structure and function. No signs of heart failure, renal impairment, or systemic illness were identified. Additionally, recent photos of the president have shown minor bruising on the back of his hand. This is consistent with minor soft tissue irritation from frequent handshaking and the use of aspirin, which is taken as part of a standard cardiovascular prevention regimen. This is a well-known and benign side effect of aspirin therapy. And the president remains in excellent health, which I think all of you witness on a daily basis here. So the president wanted me to share that note with all of you. I'm happy to take further questions on it. We will provide the memorandum from the president's physician to all of you, as we always do. And we'll get to questions. Here in our new media seat, we have Frank Corva, who's the White House correspondent for Bitcoin Magazine, which comes at a timely week with crypto legislation moving across Capitol Hill. So why don't you kick us off, Frank, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it, Ms. Leavitt.
Sure.
I was curious to hear if the president was in favor of removing any and all language around central bank digital currencies from the Genius Act, maybe as a means to get it across the line and get it on his desk. And then my second question was about something the president spoke about in this room. He talked about a $600 de minimis tax exemption for Bitcoin and other crypto spending. So I was just wondering if you could comment on those.
Sure. Well, the president did signal his support for a de minimis exemption for crypto, and the administration continues to be in support of that. We are definitely receptive to it to make crypto payments easier and more efficient for those who seek to use crypto as a simple as buying a cup of coffee. Of course, right now that cannot happen, but with the de minimis exemption, perhaps it could in the future, and we will continue to explore legislative solutions to accomplish that. As for the central bank digital currency and the Genius Act, which you noted has passed through Congress and will be sent to the president's desk. I believe the House is voting on it. If they haven't, they should be passing it. We know we have the votes, and we expect it to get to the president's desk, and we are planning a signing ceremony tomorrow afternoon. All of you will get more details on that. This piece of legislation is going to make America the crypto capital of the world, and that's what the president promised. As for a central bank digital currency, the president opposes that. He made that promise to the American people on the campaign, and while it's not in this specific piece of legislation, he did sign a January executive order banning a central bank digital currency. The administration supports Congress's efforts to codify that executive order into law, and I believe there will be future pieces of legislation in regards to crypto that will be moving through Capitol Hill. The president looks forward to signing them, and he looks forward to the signing ceremony this afternoon. So thank you for being with us today. Sure. Jackie.
Thank you, Caroline. There's been a lot of discussion about the Epstein files and the president's comments yesterday calling it a hoax. Can you clarify which part of the Epstein hoax is the hoax part?
The president is referring to the fact that Democrats have now seized on this as if they ever wanted transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein, which is an asinine suggestion for any Democrat to make. The Democrats had control of this building, the White House, for 4 years, and they didn't do a dang thing when it came to transparency in regards to Jeffrey Epstein and his heinous crimes. It was this president who directed the Department of Justice and the Attorney General to do an exhaustive review of all files related to Jeffrey Epstein, which they did. The Attorney General and the FBI, led by Pam Bondi, Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, these are great patriots, some of the most trusted voices in the Republican Party movement. It's part of the reason the president appointed them to these high law enforcement positions. And they spent many months going through all of the files related to Jeffrey Epstein, and they concluded what they found in that memo, which they drafted and they released. And so the president has been transparent. He has followed through on his promises to the American people, but he doesn't like to see Democrats and the mainstream media covering this like it's the biggest story that the American people care about. The president has been working so hard this week. On Tuesday, he went to Pennsylvania, where he secured $90 billion in investments for the Commonwealth, for the people of that state. After that, he came back to the Oval Office at 8 p.m. He went in there to whip votes to get the Genius Act signed into law. And because of his efforts, that bill is now going to be signed and passed. The following day, yesterday, he meets with a foreign leader, the King of Bahrain, to secure more investments into this country. And then yesterday afternoon, the president is in the East Room of the White House mourning with parents who have lost their children because of fentanyl, signing a bipartisan piece of legislation. And not a single cable network in this country took that event live and covered that event like they should. Those are the issues the president cares about. What could be more important to the American people than helping families who have lost their children? Those are the issues this president is going to remain focused on.
I understand he wants to move on from the story, but you do have some prominent figures, including the Senate Majority Leader, the House Speaker, voicing support for the files to come out. Representative Massey collecting signatures that would force a discharge petition for a vote on the floor for this. It doesn't seem to be going away. What is stopping the administration from just redacting any sensitive information, grand jury information, and putting out what is appropriate so that the American people can decide and then let this story die?
Well, in terms of redactions or grand jury seals, those are questions for the Department of Justice. Those are also questions for the judges who have that information under a seal. And that would have to be requested, and a judge would have to approve it. That's out of the president's control. He has said, in agreement with some of the leaders on Capitol Hill, that if the Attorney General and the Department of Justice come across any other credible evidence, they should provide that to the American people. The president has said that, and he agrees with them on that.
Why did he fire Maureen Comey?
The Department of Justice did, and I would defer you to them. Dasha.
Has the White House been directly in touch with some of the MAGA influencers that are still not satisfied with the administration's handling? And has the message to them been similar to what the president has said, which is sort of either let this go or we don't need your support?
Well, look, the president and this team are always in contact with the president's supporters, with voices of many kinds on both sides of the aisle. I think that's part of the reason this president is a great president, because he's willing to listen and hear other people's perspectives. But ultimately, he has led this country not just over the past 6 months to historic success, but also through his first 4 years as president. And as the leader and the creator of the MAGA movement, he has led through these perilous times for our country based on instinct and in the best interest of the country. And as I always say, the American people should trust in President Trump.
And what on
John,
the Fed chair?
Go ahead, John.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. The president on Monday announced that if there's not compliance with Russia within 50 days, there would be increased tariffs. Can you explain how that works? First of all, what happens if Russia doesn't end its war with Ukraine in 50 days?
Well, in 50 days, as the president clearly laid out, if there is not a ceasefire agreement or a peace deal within that time frame, if Russia refuses to legitimately agree to a ceasefire, then they will face very steep tariffs, and they will also face secondary sanctions. So countries that are purchasing oil from Russia will be sanctioned as well, and of course that will do deep damage to Russia's economy. And I would just add that the president wants this war to end with a diplomatic solution. He's been pushing for it. This administration has spent many hours and a lot of time trying to solve this war very far away, but the president wants to stop the killing and he wants to save lives.
As far
Reagan,
as the first part
go
of
ahead.
what you were saying, Caroline.
Reagan, go ahead.
I have 2 questions for you. It's just about, if I may, just about the tariffs, the first part. I get the secondary tariffs, but there was only $3 billion worth of trade between the U.S. and Russia in 2024. It's expected to be far less this particular year. On April the 2nd, both you and the Treasury Secretary said it's not necessary to apply any tariffs on Russia. You said that because of the lack of trade, it precludes, that was the word you used, any need for tariffs. Why now, and why do you think that that would make them cave and come to some sort of peace agreement as it relates to Ukraine?
$3 billion is still a lot of money, John, and it's not just tariffs, it's the secondary sanctions as well that will be implemented in 50 days. Reagan.
Thanks, Caroline. I have 2 questions for you.
Sure.
First on Congress. Congresswoman Salazar introduced legislation that would give some illegal immigrants in the country a path to citizenship. 10 Republicans signed on to what she's calling the Dignity Act. I'm curious what the White House's position is on the legislation and if the president would veto this bill if it made it to its desk.
From my understanding, the White House nor the president has actually read through this legislation. We've been focused on, of course, the One Big Beautiful Bill, which passed, which is another historic accomplishment of this president in record time. The Genius Act this week, the rescissions package, that's been the focus of the White House. But the president has made it very clear he will not support amnesty for illegal aliens in any way.
I want to give you a chance to respond to the CEO of NPR. She's claiming that the cuts to their network will, quote, be a real risk to public safety of the country. Congressman Murkowski has argued that public broadcasting stations save lives. Could you respond to these concerns?
The NPR CEO said cutting NPR will be a risk to public safety. I am not sure how NPR helps the public safety of our country, but I do know that NPR, unfortunately, has become really just a propaganda voice for the left. Just a few examples for you. In 2020, NPR refused to cover the Hunter Biden laptop scandal in the run-up to the election. They said their assertions don't amount to much, writing they did not want to waste the listeners' and readers' time on stories that are just pure distractions. That does not sound like an unbiased opinion. That sounds like a partisan opinion to me. And this is a taxpayer-funded organization. In 2018, that same CEO that you're talking about called the president in the Oval Office, who nearly 80 million Americans elected, she called him racist, shared a photo of herself wearing a Biden for President campaign hat, serves on the board of a Soros-funded activist group. In 2020, PBS's White House correspondent at the time characterized President Trump's speech then at Mount Rushmore as a love letter to white resentment, promoting the myth of America. In 2017, PBS devoted an entire panel talking about what it means to be woke and white privilege. In 2023, PBS's Washington Week Roundtable covered up Joe Biden's clear mental divide. That's actually quite the clip. I would encourage all of you to look at it. These are not honest news organizations. These are partisan left-wing outlets that are funded by the taxpayers. And this administration does not believe it's a good use of the taxpayers' time and money.
Most people are too lazy to do this, but it saves homeowners a fortune. I worked
Ed Lawrence.
Yeah, thanks, Carol. I want to ask you about the Federal Reserve. So does the president believe that the slightly restrictive monetary policy stance right now, could that cause an economic slowdown? And if he does believe that, when?
What pause are you referring to?
No, could the stance of the monetary policy is slightly restrictive? Does the president believe that that stance, the slightly restrictive stance, could cause an economic slowdown in itself?
I haven't heard the president discuss that specifically, but what I do know in regards to the Federal Reserve is the president's been very transparent about his displeasure with both the policies and the management of the Fed, and he spoke about that to all of you pretty extensively in the Oval Office yesterday.
And last month, one more if I could. Last month, the Canadian Prime Minister said the president had agreed to a July 21st deadline to sort of work towards a trade agreement. That's 4 days from now. Could there be a trade agreement with Canada in 4 days?
Well, look, we'll see. The trade team continues to be very active in our conversations and discussions with Canada. The president himself has said, unfortunately, our neighbors to the north have been pretty difficult to deal with when it comes to matters on trade. But in trade, generally speaking, as you know, 25 countries have received letters thus far from the president directly with his big, beautiful signature on them, from Japan to Korea, South Africa, Kazakhstan, Malaysia, just a few countries, and Canada also received a letter for 35%. With that said, if countries want to have legitimate further discussions, the Trump administration and the
let's go to Trump. Let's go to Trump and then get up back. Isn't it? There it is. Sorry, guys.
Good job. Thank you very much. With this bill, we are officially and permanently classifying all fentanyl-related substances as Schedule 1 narcotics, which is actually a very big deal. It doesn't sound like much. It's a big deal, as they will tell you, meaning anyone caught trafficking these illicit poisons will be punished with a mandatory 10-year minimum sentence in prison. We'll be getting the drug dealers, pushers, and peddlers off our street, and we will not rest until we have ended the drug overdose epidemic. And it's been getting a little bit better, but it's horrible. It's horrible. We're going to end it once and for all. And we're pleased to be joined on this occasion by my future DEA administrator. You're going to be a very important position, Terry Cole. Where's Terry Cole? Hello, Terry Cole. I hope you're as good as they say, Terry. I hope you're as good as Glenn Youngkin says, because it was his recommendation that got you this job. You better do a good job, or I'm blaming Glenn. Glenn, I'm going to blame you if he's no good. And who the hell knows, but I have a feeling he's going to be great. Is he that good? All right, good. You better be good. But it was really, Glenn has had tremendous experience with Terry, and he said he's fantastic. He did the job like nobody that you've seen, and we take your word for it. Thank you very much, Glenn. Also with us is Secretary Kristi Noem, who's doing a fantastic job. Where's Kristi? Where are you? Kristi. Hi, Kristi. She has been doing a great job with Tom Homan, who's fantastic. He's also central casting. He does serve the central casting role too, doesn't he? And he's a great guy. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. Steve, thank you very much. Thank you. Good job. And we have some good news on Gaza and good news on a couple of things that we're working on at a very high level. But you've done a fantastic job. Thank you very much. My nominee to lead the Office of National Drug Control Policy, Sarah Carter. Sarah, great reporter, too. She was a very tough and good reporter, and you've done a fantastic job. So now you'll be able to put all that experience to work. No more criticizing or anything else. You got to do it yourself, and you're going to do a great job, you know, as reporters do on occasion. Thank you very much. Thanks, Sarah. Good luck. Governors Glenn Youngkin, Jeff Landry, and Kelly Armstrong, where are you? Stand up. Great. Hi, fellas. Hi. How are you? and great friends of ours, Senators Chuck Grassley. Chuck, fantastic. You look fantastic. Looks like he's 44 years old. You look great, Chuck. We're proud of you. Jim Banks. Jim, thank you, Jim. Good job. Good job. Ron Johnson. Ron, good. We've got that bill passed, Ron. We got it passed. Thank you for all your help, too. Ashley Moody. Ashley, thank you very much. Jim Risch. Thank you, Jim. And you're doing a great job on the committees, and you're getting them through, the people that we need, right? I appreciate it, Jim, very much. I urge him, like, Jim, you got to get going. No, Jim's been fantastic. Bill Cassidy. Thank you, Bill, very much. Thank you very much. And Roger Marshall. Roger, thank you. And by the way, I have to say, John Thune called. He said, can you get my senators back? We're taking a vote. So we're going to go as quickly as you can. And if you feel like the urge, just get out. And we got to get all these bills signed, a lot of them related to what we're doing. So don't have the urge to stay. I won't be insulted if you walk out. But he just called. He said, could you get him back as soon as possible? Representatives Morgan Griffin, Brett Guthrie, Andy Biggs, Andy Barr, Buddy Carter, Addison McDowell, Troy Balderson. Hi, Troy.
He's from
Randy
Ohio.
Feenstra. Thank you, Randy. Scott Franklin, Tony Gonzalez, John Joyce, Dan Muser, Mike Carey, Scott Fitzgerald, Diana Harshbarger, Bob Latta. That's a good group of people. Hal Rogers, Mike Rowley, and Nick Langworthy. Thank you. We've got a lot of great people. That's a lot of political talent we have. A lot of political talent. Thank you very much. Thanks as well to State Attorneys General Brenna Bird. Thank you, Brenna, wherever you may be, because, you know, Brenna, she was the first one in that state to endorse Trump. Thank you very much. I don't forget those things, even though this is non-political today, okay? Alan Wilson, Chris Carr, and Marty Jackley. Thank you all very much. Thank you. So 6 months ago, we came into office and inherited the worst drug crisis in American history by far. They did nothing. For 4 long years, Joe Biden surrendered our borders to the most evil and vicious traffickers, networks, and everything else on the planet Earth, allowing foreign drug cartels to carve out a massive footprint on American soil. We were doing nothing. This open borders nightmare flooded our country with fentanyl and with people that shouldn't be here, some of the worst people on earth. And illicit drugs decimated American communities and left us with the largest law enforcement challenge in our country's history, and hopefully will always be the largest. I can't imagine anything being worse. They allowed millions and millions of criminals into our country, 11,888 murders, 50% of whom murdered more than one person. On day one of the Trump administration, we declared an all-out war on the dealers, smugglers, traffickers, and cartels. Within moments of taking office, I deployed the U.S. military to our border and unleashed the patriots of ICE and Border Patrol to defend our country from an invasion. This was an invasion. This wasn't people coming in. This was an invasion of our country, allowed to happen by people either that didn't care or were just stupid people. I also designated the Mexican drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. And within a few short weeks, believe it or not, if you remember, now we've even surpassed that, but we achieved the most secure border in U.S. history. And last month, we had the lowest number of illegal border crossings ever recorded. We had in June, the number was actually 0. Now, even I don't believe that, but we're going to take it. How can you go from hundreds of thousands to zero? But that's what they say. And these are very liberal people that do the recording. So I think we're going to have to take it. But the number was 0 in June. Can't get much better than that, right? On day one, I signed executive orders to create new Homeland Security task forces, marshaling the full power of federal law enforcement to eradicate transnational criminal networks and traffickers from our soil. We wanted them out. 2 weeks ago, we secured the resources necessary to achieve that mission when I signed the One Big Beautiful Bill into law. And I want to thank you all. I want to thank you. I want to thank you all. You did a great job. And you could go point after point how good it is. You know, they have just a hit against that. It's one of the biggest tax cuts in history, really the biggest everything in history. We have things in terms of security, in terms of securing our country, taking care of our police officers, law enforcement, our ICE and Border Patrol patriots. I call them patriots because that's what they are. These are strong people, tough people that love our country. If they weren't tough, they wouldn't survive. But we do more for the country in that bill, I think, than just about any bill that's been passed. And we're going to have to start speaking about it because the Democrats use it. They say it represents death. How effective is that, right? That's pretty good. It represents that. That's all they have. They only have lies. It's the only thing they have. They don't have policy. They can't get people elected. They don't have good candidates. They don't have anything, but they do have two things. They stick together. They stick together like glue. And they always come up with a good little tagline. This tagline is death. And the death is them. We're the ones that are giving life. We're giving life with that bill. And there's so many good things, whether it's no tax on tips. Think of that. No tax on Social Security. No tax on overtime. If you buy a car, you want to buy a car, you get a deduction of interest on your mortgage. So think of that. Things that were never even a possibility. And then so much else in terms of health, in terms of providing care. It's really just a fantastic bill. And it's about time that we're going to start, and we'll start talking about it. But once we do, I think we're going to have the greatest midterm that you've ever seen, because this thing really is amazing. And I want to thank all of the senators in particular for getting it done, It also makes the largest investment in the U.S. Coast Guard since World War II, ensuring that we have assets and all of the assets needed to vanquish the cartels from the waterways of North America. We're building a lot of Coast Guard ships that go very speedily along the water. And they're very lethal. They're very powerful. And that's what we need, because a lot of it comes in as we block up the border. They start using the water. That's a good run. I could use that. They block up the border. We start using the water. And that's what happens. They start using the water. Who would think? They even actually developed small submarines. You saw that, right? Small submarines to get the drugs in. And it's incredible. But we've stopped them. I've also directed the Department of Justice to seek maximum sentences for fentanyl traffickers. We're going to absolutely do the maximum. Since my inauguration, the DOJ has seized over 4,500 pounds of fentanyl, which is a record, including with the enormous Sinaloa cartel bust in May, one of the toughest cartels out there, the largest fentanyl bust ever in United States history. And now with the signing of the HALT Fentanyl Act, in just a few moments, we are delivering another defeat for the savage drug smugglers and criminals and the cartels who have a tremendous amount to say about Mexico. If you want to be nice about it, I'm trying to be nice about it. They have very strong controls over Mexico. We have to do something about that. Can't let that happen. The Mexican authorities are petrified. They're petrified to show up at their office. They're petrified to go to work because the cartels have a tremendous grip on Mexico and the politicians and the people that get elected. For years, the monsters who manufacture illicit fentanyl have sought to skirt legal restrictions by making minor variations of the chemical compound. And in the process, they've developed even more toxic versions of the drug. One common variant known as carfentanil it's becoming more and more common. It's 100 times more potent than the original version of fentanyl. Can you imagine? Look at what you have to suffer with the original. I mean, this is 100 times more potent, and it's happening stronger, more and more dangerous. And as you know, and I have a very good relationship with President Xi of China, but I imposed a 20% tariff on China because of the fentanyl, and I call it a penalty. It's a penalty because China delivers much of the fentanyl. Some people would say all of it. They deliver it into Mexico and even into our own country. We have a 20%, so they pay billions of dollars in damages for what they've done. And I think we're going to work it out so that China is going to end up going from that to giving the death penalty to the people that create this fentanyl and send it into our country, whether it's through other countries or directly. I believe that we would have had that deal a long time ago. I shook hands with them, and then we had a rigged election, and we had somebody else come in, and they didn't know anything about a deal for the death penalty. The death penalty is going to be imposed on people from China that make fentanyl and send it into our country. I believe that's going to happen soon. But as of today, all fentanyl-related substances will be banned forever, and those who traffic in these deadly poisons will be put behind bars for a very long period of time. We're joined today by just a few of the millions of families ravaged by this scourge, including Greg Swan from Michigan, who carries with him the heartbreaking loss of his beautiful son, Drew. Drew became addicted to opioids after being prescribed painkillers following a sports injury, got injured, and this is happening so much, got injured in sports and ends up, you leave the hospital a week later and you're addicted. But he fought through it and got himself clean. Then one day, Drew took a pill laced with fentanyl. He took it just casually, thought it would be okay, took a chance and he thought it'd be okay, and it didn't work out. And he tragically lost his life. And Greg, I'd like you to come forward, and if you could just say a few words about your wonderful, wonderful son, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Honor of my life.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. President. I will be brief. It's the honor of my life to be here. And Drew was the happiest day of my life was when he was born. And he always called me his hero to the day he died. And his passing ruined, I thought, my life. And every parent back here that I meet and in the audience, some of my friends, their life is gutted when they lose a kid. There's despair and there's hopelessness. But we've been able to find some repose in going out and advocating. And we want to hit every school in America. There's 26,727 of them. We want to go into every one. The kids are silent when they hear we lost somebody to this, and we tell our story, and they leave unequivocally ready to run away from fentanyl. I would just like to say thank you, Mr. President, for stopping the border crossings. Full stop, mic drop. I'll step back but it was amazing what you did. We were being gaslit, and you came and lit a fire to that story, and we're a lot safer for it. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
That's tough stuff. We're also grateful to be joined by California native Ann Fundner, who lost her beautiful eldest son, Weston, to fentanyl when he was just 15 years old, exactly 1 year ago today. Ann delivered a moving tribute to Weston at the Republican National Convention. People that saw it have not forgotten it. And Ann, I'd like you to please come up and say a few words about your wonderful boy. Thank you. Please.
Thank you, darling. It's an honor.
Good afternoon, Mr. President and distinguished guests. My name is Ann Fundner.
Oh, hold that. Come here. I'm going to hold.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I'm an angel parent. 1 year ago today, on July 16th, I stood in front of America and told the story of my son, Weston, at the RNC, and about how he was a beautiful, loving, had a wonderful life. We did everything right. But one pill, one mistake given by a friend under peer pressure took his life. In the last 4 years, fentanyl became the #1 killer of Americans ages 15 to 48. And children under 14 are the fastest growing demographic. President Trump, for 4 years, we felt ignored. But you've changed that, and we appreciate that so much. You've closed the borders, sanctioned cartels, imposed tariffs, closed shipping loopholes. Most people don't know about that. That was a big one. Dealt with countries where it's coming from. You mobilized Treasury, Justice Department, Homeland Security, lawmakers, legislators, and today the signing of the Halt Fentanyl Act, bipartisan and overwhelmingly supported by everybody, making fentanyl a Schedule I drug to strengthen the criminalization and prosecution of people who peddle this. It is a lifeline for families across America and keeping our families safe. And that's all you always want, to keep America safe. And thank you so much. Thank you for keeping America safe and for our children. And this is what we voted for, Mr. President. God bless you. God bless our angel families who are all here with us today, and all of you sitting up here with us. And God bless America. Thank you so much. You can have that. Would you like that? I would love to give that to you.
Thank you very much. It's just crazy that we have to even be doing this. It's so sad. Should be so unnecessary that we stand here for years and years doing the same thing over and over. It's terrible. A friend of mine, longtime friend of mine, is Jackie Siegel, and her beautiful children, her husband, David, just passed away. David Siegel was a great developer, great developer, great guy, a friend of mine. But her children, Jordan, Jacqueline, and Drew, come from Florida. Jackie lost her beautiful daughter, Victoria, to drugs when Victoria was just 18 years old, a beautiful person. And this April, Jackie lost her sister, Jessica, to fentanyl. In her daughter's honor, Jackie founded Victoria's Voice. And I'd like to ask Jackie to come up and say a few words about her daughter, her husband, her family. She's comes from a great family, and they've been fighting this scourge for a long time. Thank you very much, Jackie.
Mr. President, it's an honor to be here today on behalf of our family, my late husband, and all of the other affected families for this important signing on this bipartisan issue. 10 years ago, when our daughter, 18 years old, passed, Victoria, she was 18, she passed away of a drug overdose. We formed the Victoria's Voice Foundation, and the Trump administration was very helpful in passing the CARA Act, which saved many lives back then, bringing out the Narcan. And we're so honored. Well, actually, when my husband passed away, thank you for the phone call and your love and support. Our family loves you, Mr. President. That day, when my sister found out of my husband's passing, she did a line of cocaine that she thought was cocaine, and it was fentanyl. So I lost both of them in the same day. And it's been a very rough time.
That's horrible.
It's turned me into more of a fighter to carry on my husband's legacy and the other families' legacies of saving lives. And so I'm turning my pain into passion. And also on top of this, with the signing of this important the act that you're doing, we are joining with Victoria's Voice is joining with founding fathers, and we're going to start the Angel Army. So we're even growing even more under this Trump administration.
Okay.
We're going to spend the rest of our lives doing this. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank
That
you.
would be very effective. That army will be very effective, knowing Jackie. So thank you very much, Jackie. Everyone knows someone touched by the incredible crisis that we've all been watching all over the world. They're watching it. Other countries have the problem. But I don't think there are too many that have it more seriously than us. They come here and they rip us. They rip us so badly, the cartels and all of the others, because we're sort of a rich country. And that's where the money is. So it happens. People say, why is it so much? Because we have money. We're richer than other countries. So they come here more. They take the money like taking candy from a baby. So today, on behalf of all Americans who have lost a loved one to opioids, we renew our vow to liberate America from this horrible plague. And I hope you're going to do a fantastic job. You have no idea how important you are. You have like maybe the most important job just about in government. There's nothing more important than what you're doing. So I wish you a lot of luck, and we'll be there to help you all the way along. Okay? Once again, I want to thank Congress for passing this important bill and for all the work you've done over the last 2 weeks. All of you, what a job you've all done. It was the congressmen and women and the Senate has been unbelievable. And I'd like to ask, if you want, stand right up here while I sign the bill, and then we're going to get you right back so you can keep passing other bills and make America great again, right? Okay, thank you very much. It's great to have you. All right, I'm doing good, Chuck. Okay, we all set? You feel very, very protected in here, Jim.
Yeah.
Very
Closer and
protected.
closer.
We want to make sure it's signed. People behind you.
And this is not an auto pen, right? That's for sure. That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. Pass them out. We'll give some to the back too. Okay, we'll just pass them around.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. This is really an honor. Very important. One of the more important things that we'll ever sign, I suspect. And thank you all for the great job you've done. Thank you. Thank you all for the great job. Thank you very much, everybody.
All right. That's it. Thank you everybody for joining. Let me see the chat. Let me see who I got up in here. What up, Alfonso? Man, haven't seen you in forever. Good to see you, bro. What's up, dude? What's good? What's up, Billy? What's up, James? What's up, Sugar Tank? Yeah, man, of course everybody wants the files released. I felt like this was not the time to really be bringing it up. Everybody in our lives, or everybody in this chat, I can guarantee has been affected by the drug fentanyl at some point. So this was more of an important topic and something that needed to be taken care of, or needs to be taken care of, not that it is. So I can understand why, it was I think people should have sat back and listened. A lot of people kind of amazed me at how much they really didn't give a damn. Like, I really wanted to end the stream. I still took the time to listen to these people's stories. And a lot of people just were careless. And I was really shocked at a lot of the people in the chat and how thoughtless you guys were on this topic. And there was a lot of you that were great too, and God bless you all that made beautiful comments. Not everybody has to like the president, but we want to save our people, right? So the first way to do it, definitely, we have a war on drugs. Like, I think the war has been lost. It's already here. So like, if we can stop this fentanyl from coming in the best we can, that's something I'm all ears for. Like, I'm ready for it, so I don't know. I don't think it was personally, I don't think it was just some political stunt like some people were saying, that to get off from the Epstein case. I think this was already planned. I would like to think that a lot of this stuff was just brought up this week. A lot of this stuff's been planned way ahead of time. So I don't think so about that. And if you go back and listen to what she said about our president and how I still believe that when he called it a hoax, I like the explanation that we got. It makes sense. The hoax really is the fact that these people are bringing up another Russia gate on him. That's the hoax. Not that the Jeffrey Epstein didn't happen. And that's what liberals do, is they take words and they take it and they flip it and they run with it. No, the hoax is it's been going on forever and ever and ever. Now all of a sudden y'all act like you give a shit. And that's the real hoax. And I thought she nailed that very well. Because that's how I saw it. And the fact that that's how she explained it, it made sense, So I still wouldn't be shocked if there's stuff that does come out, and does get released. But you'll never get that list. You'll never get it. So, but yeah. But yeah, other than that, man, is there anybody else in here? A lot of you people really think that he's a Pete, huh? I can't wait to prove to y'all that he's not. I hope he isn't. What's up, Barry? How you doing? Trump 2028? I sure hope not. I don't know if you'll be around that long, bro. But God bless you. God bless you. But all right, everybody. Y'all have a beautiful night. If you haven't hit the like, share, subscribe, do that. Otherwise, y'all be good. Make America great again. God bless you, man. Of course, we need to get this whole world together. And God bless all the people in Texas and all the people that, are effed up right now. So that being said, peace, love, God bless.